Chapter 1425. When she held the key in her hand, Tang Hua's hand trembled. Finally, it was her turn to choose. There were so many treasures here that her eyes were about to blur. After getting the key, Tang Hua's first choice was naturally the half-innate treasure car. This kind of thing simply couldn't be measured by its value. Even the strongest refiner wouldn't be able to refine a half-innate treasure carriage. Big brother Ning, what do you think I should choose for the second item? Although Tang Hua really wanted the radiant scroll in her heart, she still wanted to hear Ning Cheng's opinion. In fact, Ning Cheng knew that Tang Hua had taken a fancy to the radiant scroll. If it were up to him, he would have suggested that Tang Hua choose the heaven-opening iron essence. If he chose the heaven-splitting mother metal, the Dharma treasure he refined would be even stronger than a Khanate Dharma treasure. Not only could this kind of magic treasure upgrade itself, but it would also automatically fuse with the user's Taoist aura after following the user for a long time. The only worry was that there weren't many refiners who could use the heaven-opening iron essence to refine magic weapons, and he just happened to be one of them. Of course, there was a reason why Tang Hua chose the Light Source Scroll. The Radiant Origin Scroll was a cultivation technique that originated from the universe. It was much stronger than ordinary cultivation techniques. Choosing this cultivation method meant that one could step onto a higher level. If you have a top-notch cultivation technique, I suggest you choose the heaven-splitting Iron Mother. If you do not have a top-notch cultivation method, then I suggest that you choose the Radiant Origin Scroll. Ning Cheng considered it for a moment before giving his own advice. You mean the heaven-splitting Mother Iron? Tang Hua did not know anything about the heaven-opening Mother Iron. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, she asked in surprise. Ning Cheng pointed to a crystal cabinet not far away and spoke, "This is the heaven-opening Mother Iron. It is the best material for crafting artifacts, there is no other." "I choose the Mother of Creation Iron," Tang Hua said without hesitation. She didn't recognize the heaven-splitting Mother Iron, but that didn't mean she hadn't heard of it. This was also a peerless treasure. Now that he had a chance to see the Mother Metal of Creation, he would regret it if he did not choose it. After saying that, she directly placed the key into the crystal cabinet of the heaven-opening Mother Iron. Then, she took out the heaven-opening Mother Iron, placed several restrictions on it, and placed it into her ring. The Tang family's cultivation technique was not bad. It was one of the top cultivation techniques in the entire Radiant Holy region. Since that was the case, why would she give up on the heaven-splitting Mother Iron and choose a cultivation technique? Seeing Tang Hua make her choice, Ning Cheng spoke up, "I will give you a suggestion. After you go out, it would be best for you to hand over the half-Xiantian treasure carriage to your grandfather Tang Shi for safekeeping. You will only be able to own such a half-innate treasure carriage after you create a world. As for the heaven-splitting Mother Iron, don't tell anyone about it. Otherwise, it won't do you any good." "Many thanks for Big Brother Ning's reminder, but I have already selected 2 treasures from the treasure house. If that is the case, then I am still missing one." Tang Hua knew that what Ning Cheng had said was right, but she still felt helpless about it. The heaven-splitting Mother Iron had to be exposed. Ning Cheng showed a smile, "Many thanks for taking me into the treasure house, but there is nothing I can help you with. After you go out, just tell them that you and I both fancied a half-innate treasure carriage. Because you want this treasured carriage, you can give me the other 4 spots. This won't do. Those people are already jealous of you. If you say that you have obtained 4 things, then I am afraid that they would go crazy, and then join forces to besiege you." Tang Hua felt grateful in her heart, but did not hesitate to reject Ning Cheng's proposal. Ning Cheng spoke up helplessly, "It's all the same to me. Even if I don't get a single thing, after I go out, there would still be people who would try to attack me. So whether I get 3 or 4, my situation would not change." Tang Hua was not a stupid person, she understood Ning Cheng's words. She knew that it would not make any difference to Ning Cheng, but it would make a huge difference to her. "Many thanks, Big Brother Ning. Tang Hua will definitely repay you in the future." Tang Hua bowed and thanked Ning Cheng. Whether it was the same for Ning Cheng or not, Ning Cheng was helping her. Ning Qing waved his hand and spoke, "Since we have already selected the things, let's go out. Big brother Ning, you can rest assured that if Yu Shi and Zhu Jin decide to deal with you, I will definitely ask my grandfather to help." Tang Hua felt grateful towards Ning Qing in her heart, and felt that the Tang clan should help Ning Qing a little. Ning Qing spoke up, "There is no need for help, as long as your grandfather does not act against me, I will be happy." "How is that possible? You have helped me so much. If not for you, I would not have been able to enter the treasure house, let alone choose these two peerless treasures." Tang Hua spoke up in a straightforward manner. Ning Qing did not explain. Don't look at Tang Hua's age of cultivation compared to him, however, he had definitely experienced a lot more things compared to Tang Hua. Tang Hua might not understand these things, but he could see it clearly. Zhong Jing, who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, finally saw Ning Qing and Tang Hua slowly walk out. He did not even have the time to greet Yi Ba, who was standing beside him, as he quickened his pace and rushed towards the radiant treasure house. According to his discussion with the Yi clan, he could choose one of the materials, moreover, he had to choose first. Yi Ba's face turned gloomy, but he still followed. "I wonder what kind of treasure Grandmaster Ning has chosen." A young man standing beside Grandmaster Laksa looked at Ning Qing and asked with a smile. Tang Hua quickly introduced, "Big brother Ning, this is Zhu Sheng from the Sacred Master clan." Ning Qing nodded and said to Zhu Sheng, "Whatever material I choose, that's my business, it shouldn't have much to do with you." Zhu Sheng's face remained calm, but he showed a sarcastic smile and did not speak again. Ning Cheng's attitude was within his expectations. After all, Ning Qing did not even bother to pay attention to Yi Ba. He believed that when Ning Qing came out, he would definitely understand that there was a price to pay for being arrogant here. "Do I have to wait for all 10 people to choose before I can leave?" Ning Qing asked Tang Hua. Tang Hua shook her head, "No need, we can leave at any time." "In that case, I'll be leaving first. Do you want to come out with me?" Ning Qing naturally would not wait for others. What he needed to do now was to leave this place, and then find a way to step into the third step. As long as he succeeded in creating the world, he would have a chance to leave the sacred domain river. "I'll go out with you." Tang Hua immediately spoke up. Ning Qing had helped her a lot, so she naturally wanted to go out with Ning Qing. At the very least, she had to say a few words for Ning Qing. In the Radiant Treasury's main hall, as soon as Ning Qing and Tang Hua came out, all eyes fell on the two of them. As for how Grandmaster Seed and Zhu Xing entered the Radiant Treasury, no one cared. The two of them stepped out of the Void Gate and landed in the Radiant Treasury's main hall. Tang Shi immediately greeted them, "What's inside the treasury?" Not only Tang Shi, but the rest of the people also followed. Everyone's eyes fell on Ning Qing and Tang Hua. Although Zhu Jin, Yu Shi, and the others were ready to act against Ning Qing, they still needed to understand the situation. Especially Zhu Jin, he wanted to know what was inside the treasury. This was the second time the Radiant Treasury had opened. According to legend, the first time it was opened by the powerhouse who established the Radiant Treasury. At that time, they were given a total of 5 chances to choose. At that time, equipment Dao was even more rudimentary, and most of the people who entered the Radiant Treasury chose Xiantian treasures. Of course, the Darkness Origin Bead and the Light Origin Bead also came out from the Radiant Treasury at that time. At that time, the primal chaos aura between heaven and earth was so dense that cultivation did not require any Dao fruits or treasures. Treasures containing primal chaos aura were not valued. Tang Hua hesitated for a moment before speaking. There are many cultivation methods inside, including the Light Scroll and the Darkness Scroll, as well as the Light and Darkness Origin auras. I chose a half-innate flying treasure carriage. Why did you only choose one? This question did not come from Tang Shi, but from another disciple from the Tang clan standing next to Tang Shi. Tang Hua spoke with some embarrassment, because this half-innate treasure carriage was the best in the Radiant Treasury. Brother Ning and I both took a fancy to this treasure carriage. As a result, in order to get this treasure carriage, I had to give up a spot. Originally, I had 2 chances, but because I gave up one, I only had one chance to choose. Tang Shi's face turned gloomy. So you entered the Radiant Treasury and only obtained a treasure carriage that was not even a Xiantian treasure? Tang Hua nodded. Yes, Grandpa, but this treasure carriage is really good. I intend to give it to Grandpa. Hearing Tang Hua's words, Tang Shi's face turned slightly better. He waved his hand towards Tang Hua. Hua, you step aside first. I want to ask this artifact crafting master you invited. Grandpa. Tang Hua quickly called out. Not waiting for Tang Hua to speak again, Tang Shi's face sank. I told you to step aside, why are you still not moving aside? Tang Hua had never seen her grandpa Tang Shi speak to her in such a harsh tone and attitude, causing her to suddenly freeze up. Not waiting for her to speak, a person from the Tang clan next to her pulled her to the side. Grandmaster Ning, my granddaughter is not sensible, are you also pretending to be ignorant? You are just a person who helped to choose, yet you dare to take away 4 things from the treasury. Do you think that I, Tang Shi, am easy to bully? As Tang Shi spoke, the killing power around his body condensed, tightly locking down the space around Ning Cheng. Tang Hua anxiously wanted to step forward to speak, but found that she was suppressed by a powerful aura, causing her to be unable to open her mouth. Ning Cheng showed a faint smile, and spoke without any care. Tang Shi, does that mean that even if your Tang clan did not invite me, could you still enter the top 10? Tang Shi on hearing Ning Cheng's rhetorical question suddenly froze. He knew what Ning Cheng meant. The top 10 had already come out. In fact, if the Tang clan did not invite Ning Cheng, not to mention the top 10, with 18 people participating in the selection, the Tang clan would not even be able to enter the top 15. If they could not enter the top 10, then it meant that they would not be able to obtain even a single treasure. Tang Shi gave a cold snort. How do you know that my Tang clan cannot enter the top 10? Maybe my Tang clan can also take the first place. Even if we do not take the first place, entering the top 3, we would still be able to obtain more than just one thing. This was completely unreasonable. Dealing with unreasonable people, Ning Cheng would never try to explain himself. He raised his hand and grasped, and the killing power formed by Tang Shi's domain, under this grasp, tore it apart like a rag. If you want to fight, then fight, there is no need to be long-winded. If Ning Cheng was afraid, then he would not have come to the Radiant Treasury today. Chapter 1426. You are called Ning Cheng. Ever since you came to the Radiant Sacred Region, Nong Shimu's cave abode has been destroyed, Nong Shirua has gone missing, and the Leaf Dao Gate has been destroyed. So today, you must clearly explain where you come from. My radiant bright heavenly sect will never allow anyone to be a bandit. Zhu Jin, on seeing Ning Cheng break through Tang Shi's killing force domain, took a step forward and formed a pincer attack with Tang Shi. Yoshi, who had long wanted to step forward, on seeing that Zhu Jin and Tang Shi had already shed all pretense of cordiality, also did not hesitate to stand in front of Ning Cheng. The rest of the people in the Bright Light Treasury's main hall immediately stepped aside. This kind of excuse obviously meant that they wanted to kill Ning Cheng, this outsider, and snatch the things on Ning Cheng. If there were benefits, someone would naturally go up. Now that the benefits were being split between the Zhu Jin, Tang Shi and Yoshi families, naturally no one would be so foolish to stand out and help. Zhu Jin didn't want to find anyone else to help. With the 3 of them, Ning Cheng, who hadn't even reached the 3rd step, would be powerless no matter how strong he was. Ning Cheng didn't feel like talking at all. With a wave of his hand, the Good Fortune Divine Spear appeared in his hand. The moment the Divine Spear of Fortune appeared, the eyes of those who knew their stuff lit up. There were more than a dozen Realm Coalescence powerhouses here. Ning Cheng's Good Fortune Spirit Spear had yet to complete its qualitative transformation. Therefore, they naturally could see that the Good Fortune Spirit Spear was extraordinary with just a glance. If you want to fight, then fight. Don't shamelessly find excuses. Ning Cheng's Good Fortune Spirit Spear hadn't even made a move yet, but the powerful spear intent Dao charm condensed into a substantial killing intent space. Those with lower cultivation bases in the distance subconsciously took another step back. He had indeed destroyed Leaf's Dao Gate. Not only had he destroyed Leaf's Dao Gate, but he had also destroyed half of Tsing Leaf's body. Tsing Lifu probably wouldn't show up again in a few tens of thousands of years. As for Nong Shimu's immortal cave, Ning Qing suspected that it was Zhu Jin's doing. Zhu Huiyang was Zhu Jin's elder brother. Who knew if there was any tacit understanding between them? Wait. To everyone's surprise, someone actually stood up and called for a stop. The one who stood out was a man of medium build and looked extremely ordinary. If it weren't for the fact that this person's eyebrows were extremely faint, it would be very difficult to notice him in the crowd. But when Ning Qing saw this person come forward, his eyes slightly jumped up. He was not afraid of Zhu Jin, Tang Shi, and Yu Shi. He had already calculated his escape route. As long as the three of them attacked, he would choose Yu Shi as his breakthrough point and force him to retreat. There were a few reasons why he wanted to beat Yu Shi up. First, Yu Shi had a huge grudge against him, and he was blocking the space in front of him. The second was to look at Tang Hua's face and spare Tang Shi, this old man. The third was naturally Zhu Jin, who was the strongest amongst the three. Even if the three of them had cultivations at the Convergence Realm, Ning Qing could still make out Zhu Jin's strength with just a glance. Moreover, Ning Qing was not aware of this seemingly ordinary-looking man in the crowd, but at this time when he stood out, Ning Qing immediately felt the pressure. This person's cultivation was actually the strongest here, so strong that even he might not be a match for him. Seeing this man stand out, Zhu Jin and company frowned, but they did not say a word, nor did they attack. The onlookers knew very well that once this person came out, the competition would become even more intense. Grandmaster Ning, you shouldn't know me, so let me introduce myself. I am Yi Wen Mao, from the Radiant Sacred Domains Yi Clan Sacred Sect. The man said with cupped fists with a smile. Ning Qing instantly understood that this person was the leader of the Radiant Sacred Domain's 10 Dao Monarchs, Yi Wen Mao. He was also the strongest among the 10 Dao Monarchs of the Radiant Sacred Domain. Even Zhu Jin was not his match. It was no wonder that Zhu Jin had to give him face. Ning Qing did not speak. He knew that Yi Wen Mao did not stand out to help him. The main reason was that this fellow wanted to get a piece of the pie. Yi Wen Mao should know that once Zhu Jin and the other two killed him, the items would be divided. Then, Yi Wen Mao would have nothing to do with it. Seeing that Ning Qing did not show any expression of gratitude, Yi Wen Mao did not mind. Everyone knew his motive, so there was no need to hide it. Grandmaster Ning, Brother Shimu and I are like brothers. If you were the one who touched Brother Shimu's cave abode, then I, Yi Wen Mao, will never let this matter rest. When he said the last sentence, Yi Wen Mao's face turned solemn and slightly angry. Ning Qing sighed, Yi Wen Mao, if you want to spread your legs, then go ahead. No one is in the mood to despise you. Can you keep that memorial arch of yours in your Yi Clan Sacred Sect? Don't discuss people, okay? Saying this sentence, Ning Cheng's imposing aura soared even more, as ripples of spear intent surged out one after another, as he spoke in a clear voice, Senior Shimu's immortal cave has been destroyed for such a long time, yet no one has come forward to speak. Now that I just came out of the treasury, all sorts of stinky bugs have come forward, claiming to seek justice for Senior Shimu. Don't you have any shame? Today, I, Ning Cheng, will stand here and say that the destruction of Senior Shimu's cave abode had nothing to do with me. I was the one who destroyed Zuefu's Dao Gate, and I was the one who destroyed Zuefu's body when he came looking for me. If you want to snatch Ning Cheng's things, then feel free to come. In the future, I will pay you a visit one by one. Ning Cheng's words were imposing. After saying this, he took a step forward. The divine spear of fortune swept up layers of killing intent as it shot towards Yoshi. At this moment, Ning Cheng was well aware of his situation. If the four of them besieged him, he would definitely not be their match. What worried him the most was that someone would come forward to fish in troubled waters. He said these words to prevent those who wanted to fish in troubled waters from coming forward. As long as he rushed out of the Radiant Treasury's main hall today, no one would be able to do anything to him. The divine spear of fortune's spear pattern was like a wave composed of the hardest material, blasting towards Yoshi. This was the spirit technique Ning Qing comprehended in the Milky Way, heaven waves rolling. Even if this spirit technique was not very mature, it was the most suitable to deal with Yoshi at this time. If not for the other three people by his side, Ning Qing would have used Traceless Collapse to deal with Yoshi. Unfortunately, he was not facing Yoshi alone. Hearing Ning Qing say that he destroyed Xing Laifu's body, Yoshi's heart instinctively trembled. Many people thought that as one of the top 10 Dao monarchs, he should be stronger than the rising star Xing Laifu. Only he knew in his heart that his strength should not be as good as Xing Laifu. Even Xing Laifu's body was destroyed by Ning Qing. Now that Ning Qing attacked him with all his strength, what could he do? Even if he desperately tried to block Ning Qing, what good would it do him? If he went all out, the benefits would belong to the other three. Feeling fear in his heart, Yoshi subconsciously rolled up his domain and flashed past Ning Qing's heaven waves rolling. The endless and violent heaven waves Dao charm directly crushed through Yoshi's domain, leaving nothing in front of Ning Qing. Although a few people could also take action, this matter had nothing to do with them. Plus, Ning Qing had just said that he destroyed Xing Laifu's body. Who would not want to block Ning Qing's path? Ning Qing secretly rejoiced in his heart. In fact, although his heaven waves looked powerful, it was not fully formed. Because he had not fully comprehended this spirit technique before leaving the Milky Way in a hurry. He used this spirit technique mainly to scare Yoshi. His energy was not on Yoshi, but on the three people behind him. Almost at the same time Ning Qing scared off Yoshi, Zhu Jin and Tang Shi attacked at the same time. Two violent Dao charm auras swept towards Ning Qing from the left and right. At this time, even if Ning Qing wanted to escape, he had to first block these two violent attacks. Otherwise, he would most likely end up the same as Xing Laifu, with his body destroyed. Ning Qing raised his hand and tore through the void in the hall. At the same time, he punched out. Boom 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 boom. The violent aura exploded in the Radiance Treasury's hall, and the many restrictions in the Radiance Treasury's hall shattered under this violent aura. Ning Qing immediately felt a huge backlash of power, but after feeling this power, Ning Qing did not feel surprised, but instead felt happy. This was the complete opposite of what he had expected. Naturally, he did not think about the reason. Instead, he charged into the void that he had torn open without hesitation and disappeared under the backlash of this power. No one chased after Ning Qing, causing Tang Shi's expression to turn ugly. Not only did Tang Shi's expression turn ugly, but even Zhu Jin's expression turned ugly. If Yi Wenmao hadn't attacked in the chaos, Ning Qing would never have had the chance to tear through the void and escape. Since the two of them attacked Ning Qing's only chance was to turn back and defend. Otherwise, his body would shatter and his essence spirit would escape. With Yi Wenmao's strength, how could he make such a low-level mistake? The only explanation for this was that Yi Wenmao had deliberately helped Ning Qing instead of helping him. Yi Wenmao naturally didn't let Ning Qing escape out of kindness. He wanted to kill Ning Qing alone and snatch away the things on Ning Qing. Among the experts in the Radiance Sacred Domain, who didn't know that Yi Wenmao not only had the best strength but also the best tracking methods. As long as Yi Wenmao glanced at someone, even if they tried to escape, they would never be able to escape from Yi Wenmao's palm. In other words, this fellow wanted to eat everything for himself. Yi Wenmao showed an ashamed expression and said apologetically, "I didn't cooperate well just now. This person escaped, and I have some responsibility. Brother Zhu and Brother Shi, rest assured, I will definitely catch this person and make up for my mistakes. I might not be good at anything else, but tracking isn't a problem for me. As long as this person doesn't walk out of this side of the universe, he will die." Zhu Jin's expression returned to normal. Even if he felt unhappy, he couldn't fight with Yi Wenmao. After Yi Wenmao finished speaking, he smiled slightly, "Then I'll have to trouble Dao Lord Yi. I don't know where this person came from, but he can even tear the void of the Radiance Treasury's main hall. He's simply too strong." When Zhu Jin said this, the expressions of many people in the hall changed slightly. Zhu Jin's words were indeed not nonsense. The void of the Radiance Treasury's main hall was publicly acknowledged to be powerful, but there really wasn't anyone who could tear the void of the Radiance Treasury's main hall. To tear the void here, one not only needed a powerful Grand Dao, but also an astonishing array Dao. Yi Wenmao also spoke with a stern expression, "That's right. I will chase after this person now. I can't let this person continue to cause trouble in my radiant sky. Sacred Master, Brother Shi, please rest assured. Once I catch this person, I will immediately bring him back." No one thought that Yi Wenmao couldn't catch Ning Cheng, nor did anyone think that he would bring Ning Cheng back. Yi Wenmao was a smiling tiger, but he always hid a dagger behind his smile. Chapter 1427. Although Zhu Jin said that Ning Cheng tore open the void of the Radiant Treasury's main hall, Ning Cheng knew that what he tore open was not the void of the Radiant Treasury, but the void restrictions of the Radiant Treasury's main hall. So when Ning Cheng rushed into the void he tore open, he still appeared within the range of the Radiant Sacred Domain. However, Ning Cheng felt relieved. What he was most worried about was that before he could tear open the Radiant Storehouse's array formation restrictions, he would end up trapped by someone, and then activate the Radiant Storehouse's grand array. This was the worst-case scenario. Once it happened, he would have no other choice but to fight it head-on. The worst-case scenario had clearly not happened. It seemed like his strength had improved quite a lot after he reached the perfected Dao integration realm. Zhu Jin and Tang Shi, on the other hand, did not live up to their reputations. Even though his punch contained an order destruction sacred art, it only served to block the attack. His backup move was the order breaking finger, but he didn't expect that he would be able to escape without using it. Ning Cheng immediately brought out the Starry Sky Wheel. But just when he was about to activate the Starry Sky Wheel to leave, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. This isn't right. Even if Zhu Jin and Tang Shi joined hands, they shouldn't have been stopped by a single punch. Ning Cheng immediately thought of Yi Wenmao, the strongest of the 10 Dao monarchs. Even if Zhu Jin and Tang Shi didn't make use of the opportunity to make him stay, Yi Wenmao wouldn't have made such a mistake. Didn't Yi Wenmao stand out at that time because he was afraid that Zhu Jin and Tang Shi would snatch away his things and he would have nothing to do with it? Since that was the case, how could a powerhouse like Yi Wenmao not make a move and just watch him escape? There was only one explanation, and that was that Yi Wenmao had also made a move. Yi Wenmao's move wasn't to keep him, but to send him away. The more Ning Cheng thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. In order to escape with all his strength, he had condensed his spiritual consciousness into a domain to protect a radius of 3 feet around him. He did not extend it any further, to observe what happened between Yi Wenmao, Zhu Jin, and Tang Shi. But why would Yi Wenmao help him escape? No matter how he thought about it, it was impossible. If not for Yi Wenmao, Ning Cheng would not have been able to understand how he managed to block Zhu Jin and Tang Shi's attacks with a single punch. Unless, Ning Cheng was shocked in his heart, unless Yi Wenmao had the confidence to find him. In just a breath's time, Ning Cheng was sure that if Yi Wenmao really acted to stop Zhu Jin and Tang Shi, then he would definitely be able to track him. How could Yi Wenmao be able to track him with 100% certainty? It was very likely that she had left a mark on his body. As Ning Cheng thought of this, he was even more certain in his heart. He had to leave immediately. If he didn't know that Yi Wenmao had left a mark on him, then he definitely wouldn't be Yi Wenmao's opponent. Initially, Ning Cheng planned to take away the 5-colored star splitter bow before leaving. But at this moment, he didn't hesitate to call out Chasing Bull and let Chasing Bull control the Starry Sky Wheel to rush out of the Radiant Sacred Domain as fast as possible. The 5-colored star splitter bow could be picked up at any time. Chasing Bull controlled the Starry Sky Wheel, while Ning Cheng himself entered the mysterious yellow bead. No matter how powerful Yi Wenmao was, he could not sense the imprint inside the mysterious yellow bead. In the mysterious yellow bead, he could slowly search for the location of the imprint, as well as when Yi Wenmao had placed this imprint on it. Ning Cheng's judgment wasn't wrong. Less than 10 breaths after Chasing Bull controlled the Starry Sky Wheel to leave, Yi Wenmao landed at the place where Ning Cheng had stood. Not to mention that he had placed a mark on Ning Cheng, even if he hadn't placed a mark on Ning Cheng, as long as he stared at someone, they wouldn't be able to escape his tracking. His innate ability was to sense Dao charm auras. As long as you were still in this part of the universe, your Dao charm would always exist. As long as one's Dao charm existed, Yi Wenmao could find it. Therefore, as long as he stared at someone, they wouldn't be able to escape his grasp. Before Yi Wenmao landed, he had a faint smile on his face. It was a smile of confidence and control. When he landed on the ground, his expression instantly changed. His imprint had stayed here for a while before disappearing without a trace. Not only that, but he couldn't feel any Dao charm aura from Ning Cheng within the range of his spiritual consciousness. The Dao charm, the smell, and all the auras related to Ning Cheng disappeared without a trace. How was this possible? Yi Wenmao clenched his fists in disbelief. He even squeezed out water from the air. If he really let Ning Cheng escape, then he would truly be an idiot among idiots. Offending Zhu Jin, Tang Shi, and Yu Shi, just to let a bastard who scolded him escape. If such a thing happened to him, Yi Wenmao, then he would have become the biggest joke in the world. Yi Wenmao forcibly calmed his mind, and his spiritual consciousness spread out endlessly. Even his innate spirit techniques spread out endlessly. After a full hour, Yi Wenmao retracted his spiritual consciousness and innate spirit techniques with a livid face. He had truly lost track of Ning Cheng. This was simply a mockery of him. Not only did he not get to eat the fish, but he also ended up with a fishy smell. No wonder this person could enter the treasure house and obtain first place. After destroying Lei Fu's Dao Gate and shattering Tseng Lei Fu's flesh, he could even scare away Yu Shi. Sure enough, this person was a ruthless character. But no matter how ruthless he was, as long as he, Yi Wenmao, kept his eyes on him, he wouldn't be able to escape. Unless he really left this part of the universe. Leaving this part of the universe in such a short time was simply impossible. If he really had such an ability, he wouldn't have needed to scare away Yu Shi. If he didn't leave this part of the universe, then how could he, Yi Wenmao, lose track of his aura? Could it be that this foreign cultivator called Ning Cheng had a world on him that his spiritual consciousness and spirit techniques couldn't detect? Was this world just like the universe, and he couldn't sense any aura from it? It wasn't that such a world didn't exist, but it was the primal chaos world, which was the rumored good fortune world. Did Ning Cheng have such a thing? Yi Wenmao was shocked by his own thoughts, and he became even more certain that Ning Cheng had a good fortune world on him. At this moment, Yi Wenmao no longer felt lost or regretful. Instead, he felt extremely excited. The Dao charm aura on Ning Cheng indicated that he most likely wasn't someone from the light and dark cosmos. If Ning Cheng really had a good fortune world on him, then it would explain how Ning Cheng came from another universe. Yi Wenmao no longer cared about what Zhu Jin and the others thought of him. Even if he had to turn the light and dark cosmos upside down, he would catch Ning Cheng. Unless Ning Cheng never came out of his good fortune world. As long as he came out, he would be able to detect it immediately. Ning Cheng gave Chasing Bull the direction of the heart of light and dark. He guessed that Yi Wenmao wouldn't notice the starry sky wheel controlled by Chasing Bull. Therefore, when Yi Wenmao came out, he would definitely try to find his location. By the time Yi Wenmao determined that he couldn't find him, Chasing Bull had already controlled the starry sky wheel and left. In fact, Ning Cheng's judgment wasn't wrong. Yi Wenmao really wanted to track his location the moment he came out and didn't care about the starry sky wheel. At this moment, Ning Cheng was searching for the imprint on his body in the mysterious yellow bead. Yi Wenmao was a peak realm merging expert. Once he placed an imprint, it would be extremely subtle. After a full 2 hours, Ning Cheng finally found the imprint Yi Wenmao left behind. The location of this imprint made Ning Cheng feel even more afraid of Yi Wenmao. He had seen countless ways to make imprints, and he had even made imprints himself. But he had never seen anyone make an imprint on the Dao charm around their body. How powerful did it take? Yi Wenmao's imprint didn't appear on his body, but on the Dao charm around him. His protective Dao charm had fused with the surrounding laws of darkness, and Yi Wenmao had attached his imprint to the laws of heaven and earth. When his protective Tao charm fused with the surrounding laws of heaven and earth, the imprint naturally followed him. What a powerful method! Ning Cheng wasn't in a hurry to remove the imprint. Instead, he constantly disintegrated the imprint's aura and tried to understand how it was done. This imprint method might not be unprecedented, but it was definitely a first-rate spirit technique. Even if someone could think of it, they might not be able to do it. Originally, Ning Cheng planned to melt the imprint as soon as he found it. But now, he wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he started to learn how to attach the imprint. This imprint method of attaching the laws of heaven and earth was one of the 3 spirit techniques of the E-Sacred sect. The people of the E-Sacred sect never worried that someone would learn this method from the imprint they left behind. After all, it was impossible. If Yi Wenmao said this in front of Ning Cheng would definitely say that it was because he didn't meet him. After Ning Cheng gained control of the laws of darkness, he felt like a fish in water. In just a month, Ning Cheng gained a preliminary understanding of Yi Wenmao's imprint method. Rather than calling it a spirit technique, it was better to say that it was a cultivation level that had reached the pinnacle of the laws of heaven and earth. Ning Cheng controlled the laws of darkness and could use the laws of darkness to fuse the imprint with the laws of heaven and earth just like Yi Wenmao. Then, he could attach it to the person he wanted to track. Ning Cheng also guessed that Yi Wenmao had left the imprint when he first arrived at the Light Vaults Hall. At that time, he was just a nobody. Yi Wenmao did not let a nobody like him go, which showed how cautious he was. At the same time, it also reflected how much he coveted the treasures in the vault. From the looks of it, even if Master Seed had negotiated with Yi Wenmao and obtained the Chaos Stone, he would not be able to escape Yi Wenmao's schemes. It was unlikely that Yi Wenmao would let this thing fall into the hands of Master Seed. Unfortunately, Master Seed did not know that by entering the vault first, he had helped him avoid a disaster. After erasing the spiritual consciousness imprint on his body, Ning Cheng simply brought out the celestial river flame and the nameless sacred flame to burn all his clothes. He even destroyed his storage ring. When dealing with a cunning person like Yi Wenmao, one had to be wary of him at all times. After cleaning himself up, Ning Cheng did not rush out. Instead, Chasing Bull controlled the starry sky wheel to head towards the heart of light and darkness. He wanted to study the things he had obtained in the Light Vault. Since he was preparing to step into the 3rd step, he would not let go of anything that could help him reach the 3rd step. As long as he reached the 3rd step, he could return to the Light Sacred Domain and take away the 5-colored Star Splitter Bow. Chapter 1428. Ning Cheng took out the fist-sized gray stone for the 2nd time. Just as the gray stone appeared in Ning Cheng's palm, a majestic and vast primal chaos aura spread out from it. This majestic primal chaos aura merged with the heaven and earth aura of the mysterious yellow bead, but it did not seem out of place. Ning Cheng felt a mysterious aura of the Grand Tao, causing Ning Cheng to secretly marvel at it. He had no intention of comprehending the Grand Tao within this chaos stone. He had his own Great Tao. His Great Tao was also the origin Great Tao. It was not any weaker than the Chaos Great Tao in the stone. Ning Cheng couldn't help but wonder what else did this Primal Chaos Stone contain besides the Primal Chaos Origin Tao. Why did so many people in Radiant Heaven want this stone? As Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness slowly penetrated into the Primal Chaos Stone, the Primal Chaos Aura grew thicker and thicker. He didn't know when, but Ning Cheng had completely lost the clarity to explore this Chaos Stone. He had already sunk into the depths of this Chaos Stone. In the midst of the dazzling white light, Ning Cheng could not see anything, other than the white light in front of him. There was only more white light. However, he could feel the vastness of the world and the vastness of the universe. A rumbling sound rang out beside him, as if a chaotic universe was slowly splitting apart. The blinding white in front of him suddenly turned pitch black. From white to black, nothing could be seen. However, the pitch-black color was more vivid than the white color, and it had an aura of life. Within this darkness, Ning Cheng vaguely felt the aura of laws. A natural feeling welled up in Ning Cheng's heart. The origin of the laws of darkness was not darkness, but that dazzling white. Black and white were only separated by a thin line. This was the origin of the rules. The feeling of enlightenment that excited Ning Cheng had yet to fully take shape. Primal chaos aura slowly spread out from the crack in the chaotic universe, and the vast aura of the laws of heaven and earth also slowly condensed. Black and white alternated with each other, causing the colors in front of Ning Cheng to become rich. He saw the laws of heaven and earth condensing. He saw the universe slowly taking shape. He saw everything sprouting and growing just like the beginning of spring. After the law of heaven and earth condensed, vitality also slowly formed. Plants and living creatures began to appear. In addition to life, the chaos verse also began to hear, breathe, and move. There were more emotions, joy, and sorrow, watching the world take shape with his own eyes, feeling the laws of heaven and earth taking shape with his own eyes, seeing all things condensed together. Ning Cheng felt as if all things in this world had gradually integrated into it. At this moment, he was like a statue, without the slightest aura. Or perhaps, his entire spirit and aura had fused with the chaos stone in his hand. Cultivation was timeless, and this kind of enlightenment was also timeless. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. In the blink of an eye, 5,000 years had passed. The vast universe in front of Ning Cheng's eyes gradually took shape. He witnessed the formation of this universe with his own eyes. He saw the plants, the creatures struggling to survive in the universe, from birth to death, and then to extinction. He saw a blade of grass struggling to push away the stone that was crushing it, and he saw an elf-like deer trying to escape from the huge beast that was chasing after it. The grass pushed away the rocks and grew with great difficulty, but when the wind blew, it was once again pressed down by the rocks. Perhaps it had lost its initial intelligence and desire to live, and it finally rotted under the stone. After a few hundred years, another small grass grew under the stone. The elk escaped the pursuit of the giant beast, but it fell into the claws of another hungry wolf and was deprived of its life in despair. A feeling of being touched by life and hesitation for survival rose from the bottom of his heart. This feeling and hesitation made the tip of his nose sour, and he felt a kind of pity. How vast the universe was, how difficult it was to live. How majestic the universe was, how small life was. I can't let these humble lives disappear like this, I can't let these struggling creatures perish like this. Ning Cheng's heart began to struggle. He heard a deep call, a call that seemed to come from outside the world, but also from countless billions of years ago. Like ice water poured over his head, Ning Cheng suddenly woke up. The gray stone was still in his hand, and the stone still exuded a strong aura of primal chaos. He was still sitting inside the mysterious yellow bead, without any changes. His eyes were a little moist, and his heart was still fluctuating. After a long time, he took a long breath. He knew that these were not things he could intervene in. All things in the universe had life and death, origin and destruction. The heavenly Tao was natural, and it was difficult for all things to transcend. Even if it was him, he would eventually perish in this vast universe. An inexplicable sadness welled up in his heart, and he missed his family at this moment. Once upon a time, the willow trees were still growing. Today, I come to think of it, the rain and snow are falling. The journey is slow, the thirst and hunger are born. My heart is sad, but no one knows my sorrow. I pursue the great Tao, but in the end, I still can't escape the heavenly Tao and perish among all things. During the time I came out, how was my family, those who know me? My heart is worried, those who don't know me, what do I seek? Distant heavens. Who is this? Who caused me to become like this? This is caused by my pursuit of the great Tao. Go back, I must not waste my life here. After so many years of pursuit, do I really have to give up like this? Ning Cheng's heart surged with unwillingness. His eyes suddenly moved away from the gray primal chaos stone in his hand and looked into the distance of the mysterious yellow bead. The extinction of all things in the universe was caused by the heavenly Tao. If the heavenly Tao was in his hands, if the universe was created by him, if everything between heaven and earth was condensed by him, then who would dare to let him perish? Who would dare to let him perish? Who would dare to let Ning Cheng perish? The vague things that he and Nong Shirua had discussed about the third step became increasingly clear in front of Ning Cheng's eyes. He wanted to condense the laws of heaven and earth that belonged to him. He wanted these laws of heaven and earth to form a vast universe that belonged to him. I cultivate the great Tao of the laws of heaven and earth. I cultivate the mysterious yellow beads 5 elements origin Tao. I cultivate the mysterious yellow beads all things return to one. These are things that I comprehended, but they are not my own. I comprehended the great Tao between heaven and earth to obtain these things. I want to condense my own world, condense my own laws, no longer be bound by the original laws of heaven and earth, no longer be affected by the mysterious yellow formless. There is only one way. Severing Tao. Severing all the great Tao and all the laws that he comprehended. After I, Ning Cheng, sever my Tao, I can still condense my own great Tao and condense my own laws. At this moment, Ning Cheng saw a great Tao that belonged to him. He experienced the creation of the universe, the survival and extinction of all things. He experienced joy and sorrow, excitement and dullness. At this moment, he finally found the direction of the great Tao that belonged to him to condense the third step. He wanted to sever his Tao. He wanted to sever the 5 element laws, the ice wind thunder attributed laws, and the darkness attributed laws. Chasing Bull, let's not go to the heart of light and dark. Let's go to where we should go. Ning Cheng clenched the chaos stone and exuded an aura that looked down on the world. Chasing Bull didn't answer, but Ning Cheng suddenly sobered up. He was still in the mysterious yellow bead, but Chasing Bull controlled the starry sky will to head to the heart of light and dark 5,000 years ago. Over the years, he had been comprehending the chaos stone and had neglected this point for a while. Ning Cheng quickly left the mysterious yellow bead, but found that he was in a good immortal cave. As soon as he came out, Chasing Bull ran out and spoke, "Master, you're out of seclusion." Ning Cheng could see that Chasing Bull had built this cave. Moreover, Chasing Bull's strength had not only reached the Tao sculpting realm, but it had also improved. From the looks of it, Chasing Bull had cultivated very hard over the years. "Where is this?" Ning Cheng asked in doubt. Chasing Bull quickly spoke up, "Master, Little Bull has been traveling without rest for years and finally arrived at the periphery of the heart of light and dark." Little Bull saw that Master didn't come out of seclusion and didn't dare to disturb Master's cultivation. "So I opened up a cave here and improved my cultivation over the years." "Good, you deserve praise." Ning Cheng patted Chasing Bull's head. Chasing Bull's body almost melted into sugar. For a long time, Ning Cheng's master had always scolded it, but he rarely gave such praise. It seemed that it had made great progress recently and even got praised by Ning Cheng. Little Bull obeyed Master's instructions and resolutely carried out Master's orders, one step at a time. "Okay, let's go to this place now." Ning Cheng interrupted Chasing Bull's long speech and opened the gray chaos stone in his hand. Although Ning Cheng had comprehended the universe opening technique from the gray chaos stone in his hand, he also felt a call from the stone. He vaguely felt that the stone was calling him to the place where he wanted to reach the third step of Tao confirming realm. There was no reason for this feeling, only an intuition. "Master, please instruct me." Little Bull promises to bring Master there quickly and steadily. While Chasing Bull was still exaggerating its speed, Ning Cheng gave out a soft cry. The place that resonated with the chaos gray stone in his hand was not far from here. Ning Cheng pointed to the west and asked, "Chasing Bull, is the heart of light and dark there?" Chasing Bull nodded quickly, "Yes, Master. This place is the best place to build a cave outside the heart of light and dark. The place that Master is pointing to is the heart of light and dark. But I've eavesdropped on a lot of people who came here over the years. The heart of light and dark can only be found on the periphery. Once you go in, it's basically the same as entering the sacred domain river. You can never come out again. Okay, let's go to the depths of the heart of light and dark." Ning Cheng spoke without hesitation. The chaos stone in his hand pointed to the heart of light and dark. First sacred domain of light, sacred master domain. Apart from the bustle when the light treasury opened thousands of years ago, it had been extremely calm in the past few thousand years. Yuan Mao, who had never failed to catch up to Ning Cheng, was a rare occurrence in the Radiant Sacred Domain. However, no one in the Radiant Sacred Domain would believe Yuan Mao's words. Everyone thought that Yuan Mao had already caught up to Ning Cheng, but Ning Cheng didn't want to admit it. Yuan Mao only apologized to Sacred Master Zhu Jin, Tang Shi, and the others before going into seclusion. He also never explained to the people outside about him. On this day, Yuan Mao suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes shone with excitement as he muttered to himself, "After so many years, you finally came out." Then, his whole body turned into a faint light and rushed out of the Sacred Master Domain. Chapter 1429. Just as Tang Hua said, there were many cultivators wandering around the periphery of the Heart of Light and Darkness. These people's cultivation levels were not very high. The highest among them was only at the Tao sculpting realm. When Ning Cheng's starry sky will passed over the heads of these people and entered the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark, everyone who saw it shook their heads. Another person who was not afraid of death. Over the years, many people had entered the Heart of Light and Darkness without fear of death. No matter how many people entered, none of them could come out. Ning Cheng stood in front of the starry sky wheel with his hands behind his back, while his spiritual consciousness swept through the surroundings. The Heart of Light and Dark sounded very high-end, but in fact, it was a place where swamps and thorns were mixed together. There were indeed some good materials here, but Ning Cheng felt sure that this place did not have something like the soul-gathering immortal lotus. After so many years, with so many people wandering around the Heart of Light and Darkness, it would be strange if there were still Luopu immortal lotuses. Fortunately, he had decisively chosen the soul-gathering immortal lotus in the Light Treasury. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know where to find such a thing. The Heart of Light and Dark covered an extremely wide area, and Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could only reach a small part of it. Ning Cheng's cultivation did not improve even a little bit after spending 5,000 years inside the mysterious yellow bead. However, he hadn't spent the past 5,000 years in vain. Because of his understanding of the chaos stones, he had a better understanding of the changes in the heaven and earth laws. Even the slightest fluctuation would be caught by him. "Master, we'll reach the depths of the Heart of Light and Darkness if we go any further. I heard that it's a very dangerous place." Chasing Bull, who controlled the starry sky wheel, spoke in a weak tone. It seemed that after living on the edge of the Heart of Light and Dark for so many years, it had also learned to fear. Ning Cheng showed a faint smile, and was just about to speak, when his eyebrows suddenly pricked up, and he immediately sneered, "You really do have some skills, no wonder you dared to let me go." "Master, what's the matter?" Chasing Bull asked hurriedly. Ning Cheng then said to Chasing Bull, "Since you entered the mysterious yellow bead, someone is chasing after you." "Yes, Master." When Chasing Bull heard that someone had chased after them, how could it have any thoughts of staying outside? He could not wait to enter the mysterious yellow bead as soon as possible. These people from the Holy Realm are rotten to the core. They're actually cutting my flesh to make soup. If another freak like this appeared, the little bit of cultivation that this Lord Ox had painstakingly accumulated would also be destroyed. If its master couldn't beat them, it would be sending itself to death if it stayed outside. If its master could defeat it, then it didn't have to worry. After sending Chasing Bull into the mysterious yellow bead, Ning Cheng took control of the starry sky wheel. He didn't think of running away. He knew who was chasing after him. He had stayed in the mysterious yellow bead to perceive the primal chaos ash stone for 5,000 years, yet someone still managed to catch up to him. Besides Yuan Mao, there was no one else. Since Yuan Mao had the ability to search, he naturally wouldn't mind letting him go. However, at that time, Yuan Mao did not think that he would have the mysterious yellow bead. After entering the mysterious yellow bead, he could not sense him anymore. 5,000 years later, when he came out of the mysterious yellow bead, Yuan Mao once again sensed him. He had destroyed the imprint that Yuan Mao had placed on him. The only way that Yuan Mao could sense him was through his Tao runes. If it were 5,000 years ago, Ning Cheng would never have felt the subtle fluctuations of Dao charm aura around him. At this moment, as soon as Yi Wenmao sensed his Dao charm aura, Ning Cheng immediately sensed the fluctuations. The reason why Ning Cheng did not intend to escape was because he knew that by the time Yi Wenmao reached the edge of the Heart of Light and Dark, he would have already entered the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark. Secondly, even if he did not enter the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark, Yi Wenmao's cultivation might not be able to crush him. Even if he was not Yi Wenmao's opponent, Yi Wenmao would not be able to stop him if he wanted to escape. As for calling Chasing Bull into the mysterious yellow bead, it was not for Yi Wenmao, but because Ning Cheng planned to step into the third step in the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark. He actually went to the Heart of Light and Dark. Yi Wenmao looked in the direction of the Heart of Light and Dark in doubt and sped up. The Heart of Light and Dark was located at the junction of the bright sky and the dark sky. It was the only place between the bright sky and the dark sky without the sacred domain river. Whether it was the people from the bright sky or the dark sky, everyone could go to the Heart of Light and Dark sky. However, everyone knew about the dangers of the Heart of Light and Dark. Over the years, there were very few people who could come out of the Heart of Light and Dark unscathed. Even Yi Wenmao did not dare to enter the Heart of Light and Dark rashly. Yi Wenmao did not think that Ning Cheng would enter the Heart of Light and Dark to die. Moreover, Ning Cheng also understood the dangers of the Heart of Light and Dark. In this case, there was only one reason why Ning Cheng dared to enter the Heart of Light and Dark. Ning Cheng found a way to enter the Heart of Light and Dark in the Light Treasury. Thinking of this, Yi Wenmao's heart became even more fervent. He seemed to have seen himself owning a good fortune treasure, entering the Heart of Light and Dark and owning the Light and Dark treasure tree. Although Yi Wenmao's guess was not entirely correct, it was close to the truth. Ning Cheng wanted to enter the Heart of Light and Dark before because he heard that there was a Light and Dark treasure tree in the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark. Later, after comprehending the Chaos Stone, he lost much interest in entering the Heart of Light and Dark. What he wanted was to condense his own law world and step into the third step. However, the Chaos Stone also called out to the Heart of Light and Dark. Half a month later, Ning Cheng put away the Starry Sky Wheel. In the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark, Ning Cheng's speed was also restricted. From time to time, a whirlpool of Dao charm appeared in the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark. If not for Ning Cheng, who was extremely sensitive to the fluctuations of the heaven and earth Dao, he might have already been sucked into the whirlpool of Dao charm. After a few more days, Ning Cheng finally stopped. He finally understood why this place was called the Heart of Light and Dark. The area in front of him was a heart-shaped domain. Half of the edge of the domain was dazzling white, while the other half was dark gray. He could capture the entire edge of the domain with his spiritual consciousness, but his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate the domain at all. Every time Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness tried to enter the Heart of Light and Dark, a vast and majestic aura rolled over and swallowed his spiritual consciousness completely. After standing at the edge of the Heart of Light and Dark for a long time, Ning Cheng took a deep breath and stepped into the Heart of Light and Dark. Boom! Kaka! Ning Cheng had just stepped into the Heart of Light and Dark area when a violent and powerful heaven and earth Dao charm rolled over. Just like when it swallowed Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, it directly swept away part of the Dao charm around Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng felt his darkness Dao charm being swallowed up by this space. It was as if the laws of darkness he had comprehended over the years had been prepared for the depths of the Heart of Light and Dark. The vast and majestic heaven and earth laws rolled over. The laws of light and the laws of darkness merged together, suppressing Ning Cheng to the point where he couldn't move. Ning Cheng was shocked. His spiritual consciousness was completely bound. At this moment, not to mention using his spiritual consciousness to observe the situation outside, he couldn't even capture the scene around him with his spiritual consciousness. However, this panic only lasted for a moment. Ning Cheng quickly calmed down. He could still stretch out the 5 elemental attribute laws he originally controlled. The 5 elemental attribute laws gradually formed a protective domain around him, allowing him to regain his freedom. At this time, Ning Cheng was finally able to clearly see where he was standing. Under his feet, there were countless grayish-white bones. These bones had obviously swallowed the Tao charm after coming in, which meant that they could only die. As for the outside of the heart of light and dark, not only could Ning Qing not see it with his spiritual consciousness, but he couldn't even see it with his eyes. In front of him, there was only a vast darkness. Perhaps it wasn't appropriate to describe this darkness as vast, but Ning Qing couldn't think of any other words to describe what he felt. It was vast, hazy, majestic, and vast. He felt as if he was standing on a boundless land, surrounded by endless majestic auras. Ning Qing simply closed his eyes and let out his spiritual consciousness again. He felt a primal aura similar to the one he sensed from the primal chaos gray stone. However, this primal aura was mixed with all kinds of mottled things. Ning Qing took a step forward, and the surrounding heaven and earth aura changed once again. The vast darkness from before had turned into a vast brightness, and the heaven and earth laws remained hazy and vast. Ning Qing opened his eyes. Apart from the space that could swallow the laws of light and darkness, there was still nothing around him. However, Ning Qing saw too many things at this time. That's right, this chaotic and vast land with nothing in it was the place where he could confirm his Tao. In this place, there was no root, no stem, no leaf, no glory. In this place, cutting Tao, condensing laws, transforming heaven and earth. In this place, all things were born, and all things were formed. This is where I, Ning Qing, cut my Tao to create a world. Chapter 1430. As Ning Cheng's Tao sense rose, the primal chaos gray stone in his hands suddenly burst open, and the chaotic aura of the universe's creation merged with the chaotic aura of the heart of light and darkness. Ning Qing once again fell into the state of perceiving the formation of the universe. Although Tao charm surrounded his body, there was no movement. An aura that couldn't integrate with the surrounding laws of heaven and earth, or even the Tao charm laws around him, formed out of thin air. This aura was incompatible with the surrounding heaven and earth grand Tao, but it seemed to be more compatible with him than the heaven and earth grand Tao. At first, this Tao charm aura was very weak, but Ning Qing seemed to attach great importance to it. As time passed, it slowly grew stronger. As this Tao charm grew stronger, the aura of Ning Cheng's own perception was pushed away and surrounded Ning Qing more clearly. The metal-attributed Tao charm laws, which had originally merged with Ning Cheng's Tao charm, were squeezed out by these Tao charm laws. Instead, they formed a clear origin aura around him. It was something that all cultivators yearned for. But at this moment, the unique Tao charm aura formed around Ning Cheng's body turned into a Tao charm sharp blade that chopped down without hesitation. Ning Qing, who had his eyes closed, felt as if someone had cut off his skin and flesh with a knife, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. The metal-attributed Tao charm laws also trembled crazily at this moment, as if complaining of unfair treatment. But Ning Qing didn't respond. After the unique Tao charm aura cut through the metal-attributed Tao charm laws, it directly swallowed them up. After an unknown amount of time, Ning Qing could no longer feel the metal-attributed Tao charm laws around him. The metal-attributed Tao charm laws had been cut off. After the metal-attributed Tao charm laws were cut off, the Tao charm that Ning Qing had fused with himself became even more powerful and once again pushed away the wood-attributed Tao charm laws around Ning Qing. The wood-attributed origin Tao charm had just condensed into a substantial aura around Ning Qing when the Tao charm aura formed around him turned into a sharp blade and swallowed it. After cutting off the metal-attributed Tao charm aura, Ning Cheng's own Tao charm aura grew even stronger and even formed a rudimentary form of laws. Cultivation knew no time, and cutting one's Tao was even more torturous. Time passed, and years flew by. Ning Qing, who was in the depths of the heart of light and dark, was gradually wrapped in all kinds of Tao charm aura. Tao charm laws were constantly being cut down and devoured. His own Taoist aura was also condensing, forming a more solid nomological aura. This was a new law that did not exist between heaven and earth, nor did it exist within the universe. This was a law that Ning Qing had comprehended on his own. Yiwen Mao stood at the edge of the heart of light and darkness, staring at the depths of the heart of light and darkness in shock. He had been to this place before, and not just once. Although he could not observe the depths of the heart of light and darkness with his divine sense, he could feel that it was not violent. At this moment, Iwan Mao could clearly feel the berserk power of the heart of light and darkness. At this moment, it seemed that all the laws of the heart of light and darkness had begun to shatter. These shattered laws were extremely chaotic. What did he do in the heart of light and darkness? Iwan Mao clenched his fist and muttered to himself. Unfortunately, he did not have the means to enter the heart of light and darkness. Should he go in or wait outside? Iwan Mao made up his mind in a very short time. He would wait outside first. Once the berserk aura in the depths of the heart of light and darkness weakened, he would immediately enter the heart of light and darkness. Iwan Mao never expected that he would wait for such a long time. After the berserk aura in the heart of light and darkness started to become berserk, it did not stop. Not only that, but the berserk aura also became more and more berserk. All kinds of Taoist aura roared, the sound of laws shattering, and even the power of heaven and earth trembling. Under such power, Iwan Mao did not retreat from the edge of the heart of light and darkness. As for entering the depths of the heart of light and darkness, he had long since put that idea aside. No matter how good the treasure was, he had to stay alive. Time passed, and in a blink of an eye, another 5,000 years had passed. Iwan Mao had already steeled his heart. Even if it took 500,000 years, he would still wait. The berserk aura in the depths of the heart of light and darkness seemed to slowly weaken. Iwan Mao came out of the cave mansion in surprise. When he saw the scene in the heart of light and darkness, he suddenly froze. He saw the indomitable light and darkness treasure tree, the beautiful rainbow in front of the light and darkness treasure tree, and he also saw, time seemed to pass in the blink of an eye for Ning Cheng. He continued to cut down his Tao, condensed his own Tao charm, and condensed his own Tao charm into new laws. He also condensed the new laws into the universe. The 5 elements Tao charm laws that he had once comprehended had been cut off. The wind, thunder, and ice Tao charm laws that he had once comprehended had also been cut off. The darkness Tao charm laws that the heart of light and darkness had devoured as soon as he came in had also been cut off from his own Tao. The time Tao charm laws that he had once comprehended had also been cut off. The space Tao charm laws that he had once comprehended had also been cut off. As long as it was the Tao charm laws that he had once comprehended in the 5 elements universe, they had all been cut off without any attachment. It was as if he came here naked, and then knitted his own clothes in his nakedness. The Tao charm that he had condensed gradually grew after cutting off many of the laws of heaven and earth. From the initial Tao charm aura, it formed a new embryonic form of Tao charm laws. This new embryonic form of law was still growing and slowly condensing into a new world. It was a gray world. In this world, apart from Ning Cheng, there was only coldness and darkness. Time passed, and 5,000 years passed in a blink of an eye. The new laws gradually spread out in this world, forming light, darkness, the sky, the earth, and the rivers. The vegetation on the earth began to sprout, the breeze in the sky began to flow, and the waves in the rivers slowly rolled up. The colors of the gray world gradually became richer, and the silence was gradually replaced by noise. His own Tao charm laws also gradually overlapped with the world, and the laws split apart and decomposed into more laws of heaven and earth. Perhaps these laws of heaven and earth weren't called metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, ice, or light and darkness. But these laws of heaven and earth also gave birth to the colors of the world. Ning Cheng's eyes became moist again. This was his world. As long as he lived, his world would live. No one could interfere with the survival and destruction of his world. In his world, he was the master. In the first 5,000 years, he witnessed the formation of the chaotic universe above the chaos gray stone and the birth of various laws. After another 5,000 years, his own world formed, which was condensed by his own laws. Rumbling sounds exploded in the air, and black holes appeared in the depths of the heart of light and darkness. The heart of light and darkness seemed to be angry that someone dared to condense a new world in this universe that didn't belong to any heavenly Tao. Endless black holes swallowed Ning Cheng, but Ning Cheng didn't move at all. Or rather, he didn't need to move at all. His world was like a space that completely protected him. No wind, rain, thunder, or violence could move him in the slightest. Ning Chang's eyes slowly opened, and everything around him quietened down. The heart of light and darkness, which was filled with chaotic aura, also calmed down. A rainbow appeared in front of him, and behind the rainbow, a giant tree that was half black and half white stood there. The giant tree exuded boundless vitality and transformed into the boundless Tao runes of the darkness and light laws. Ning Qing knew that it was the light and darkness treasure tree of the heart of light and darkness. Ning Qing raised his hand, and his world appeared behind his palm. My Ning City's realm condenses its own Tao charm. My Ning City's realm is not within the 5 elements, nor is it within light and darkness. My Ning City's realm controls only my Ning City. My Ning City's realm is not affected by the decline of heaven and earth and transcends beyond the universe. Today, my Ning City's realm has reached the 3rd step. Ning Chang's clear voice spread throughout the depths of the heart of light and darkness. As Ning Chang's voice fell, clear Tao charm laws surrounded Ning Chang. The surrounding roars gradually quieted down, as if afraid of angering Ning Chang. Ning Chang raised his hand and pointed out with his finger. Spirit technique, order-breaking finger. Boom! A black hole appeared, and the entire heart of light and darkness's realm trembled. It was the same order-breaking finger, but it was no longer the same spirit technique as before. Even if heaven and earth fell into silence, even if the universe was destroyed, as long as his realm remained, his order-breaking finger would no longer be affected by the laws of heaven and earth in the outside universe. From now on, any of his nomological spirit techniques would no longer be affected by the outside universe. He had his own world, and his world was formed by the laws he condensed. Even if someone used the order-breaking finger on him, as long as his world remained, the order-breaking finger wouldn't affect him. Unless the other party controlled all the laws in his world, they would never be able to break his nomological spirit technique by breaking the laws. Ning Qing stood with his hands behind his back. He had succeeded in creating his realm today. In the future, the stronger his realm became, the stronger he would become. Feeling himself fusing with the laws of the realm he created, Ning Cheng's heart was filled with anticipation. He also felt glad that he could escape from Xing Shi's hands several times. He had never thought that he would become so powerful after stepping into the creation realm. Even if Xing Shi didn't create her own realm like his, it would still far surpass ordinary pseudo-realms and fake realms. Ning Cheng's gaze swept out. Originally, he couldn't see through the periphery of the heart of light and darkness. But at this moment, he could clearly see Yi Wenmao. Yi Wenmao stood outside and stared at the light and darkness treasure tree in shock, as well as the rainbow in front of the light and darkness treasure tree. If Ning Cheng had seen this light and darkness treasure tree before he created his realm, he would have done everything he could to take away this treasure tree. But at this moment, Ning Cheng's gaze swept past the treasure tree. He didn't care about it at all. Instead, his gaze fell on the river behind the treasure tree. This was the Sacred Domain River. Although the Sacred Domain River here had ripples, it was undoubtedly the Sacred Domain River. Chapter 1431. In just a few breaths, the ripples on the surface of the river gradually shrank and looked like it was about to disappear. Ning Qing dispelled the idea of going inside to investigate. He didn't have to enter the Sacred Domain River from here. The surface of the Sacred Domain River must have appeared due to the fluctuations of his realm creation. His current strength was many times stronger than when he was at the 2nd step. The stronger he became, the more Ning Qing knew his shortcomings. In the vast universe, there were too many powerhouses. He could cut through the Tao creation realm and reach the 3rd step. How could he know if there were any powerhouses like him before him? As the surface of the light and dark universe, how could the Sacred Domain River be so simple? If he wanted to enter the Sacred Domain River, he would have to go through the place he had explored before. The light and darkness treasure tree gradually faded, and the rainbow also slowly dissipated. The heart of light and darkness seemed to have returned to its original appearance. Only Ning Qing knew that he had devoured many heaven and earth laws here. When he first came in, the heart of light and darkness had devoured his darkness Tao charm. At this time, he had already devoured it hundreds of millions of times. It was time to go out. Ning Qing didn't do anything to the light and darkness treasure tree. The light and darkness treasure tree belonged to the light and dark universe, so it was best for the light and dark universe to stay here. Ning Qing might not have realized this before, but after his world formed, he realized how difficult it was to form a world. Maybe one day, his world would also give birth to a tree with the same heaven and earth laws. He naturally wouldn't let others take away this tree. What's more, after he reached the third step, the light and darkness treasure tree's usefulness to him had declined infinitely. After seeing the light and darkness treasure tree, Yi Wenmao only paused for a few breaths before he could no longer hold back and stepped into the heart of light and darkness without hesitation. The light and darkness treasure tree didn't have much attraction to Ning Qing at this time, but it was a treasure of heaven and earth for Yi Wenmao. The moment Yi Wenmao entered the heart of light and darkness, the light and darkness treasure tree no longer appeared in front of him. The chaotic laws around him constantly devoured the Tao charm around him, making it difficult for him to even take half a step. A sense of fear welled up in his heart. Even though he knew that the heart of light and darkness had a slim chance of survival, he still felt afraid when faced with such a terrifying scene. It was rumored that only one person could come out after entering the heart of light and darkness. That person was Nong Shimu. However, every time he asked Nong Shimu would just smile and not answer him directly. In his opinion, even if he was not as powerful as Nong Shimu, the difference would not be too great. Now that he was standing in the depths of the heart of light and darkness, the Tao runes and laws around him were constantly being devoured. Only then did he understand why almost none of those who entered the heart of light and darkness could come out. At the same time, he also knew how big the gap between him and Nong Zimu was. If he, Yi Wenmao, couldn't find a way to solve the problem of his Tao charm being devoured, he would end up like the gray bones beneath his feet. Ning Qing easily stepped out of the heart of light and dark. At the same time, he saw Yi Wenmao enter the heart of light and dark. Ning Qing shook his head, he was simply too lazy to care about Yi Wenmao. Even if Yi Wenmao's cultivation was stronger than his before he reached the third step, it would be extremely difficult for him to come out after entering. As for him going in and adding fuel to the fire to kill Yi Wenmao, Ning Qing did not have such an idea. The depths of the heart of light and darkness looked very small from the outside, but in fact, it was extremely vast inside. Who knew how long it would take to find Yi Wenmao? Besides, although Yi Wenmao wanted the things on him, he had still helped him a little, so he should just let him fend for himself. Ning Qing did not immediately leave this place, rather entered the mysterious yellow bead. Thousands of years had passed since he started creating worlds. Over the past few thousand years, Ning Qing didn't know how chasing bulls cultivation had improved. Ning Qing had just entered the mysterious yellow bead and hadn't even had the time to observe chasing bull's realm with his spiritual consciousness when his heart moved slightly. The underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King woke up. Since the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King fell into a deep slumber, it hadn't woken up. Who would have thought that he would wake up at this moment? Master. As soon as the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King woke up, it immediately sent out a thought in surprise. Ning Qing could feel the joy from the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King, but it was more concentrated on the light and dark treasure tree. It's just that after he entered the mysterious yellow bead, the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King could no longer sense the light and darkness treasure tree. That's right, he's already at the Tao modeling realm. It looks like all these years have not been wasted in vain. Ning Qing spoke up with appreciation. The cultivation of plant spirits was much more difficult, especially at high levels. Being able to sculpt one's Tao was an opportunity among opportunities. Ordinary plant spirits would be snatched away before they could even take shape. If this underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King wasn't by Ning Qing's side, it wouldn't have been able to sculpt its Tao even if it took another 1,000 or 5,000 years. After the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King reached Tao sculpting, it would definitely be able to transform. Sure enough, The next moment, the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King, which was only a foot tall and had a hint of verdant grayness, fell to the ground. The underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King's transformation almost made Ningqing laugh out loud. This underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King's aesthetic sense was too poor. This head looked like a small square stool with 2 eyes and a mouth in the middle. Even if it wanted to transform, wouldn't it be a round head? This fellow. Fortunately, the verdant face indicated that it wasn't a human but a spiritual plant transformation. Master, Little Bull is here. Congratulations to Master for achieving the Tao and controlling heaven and earth. Little Bull's cultivation has also improved under Master's brilliance. Ningqing didn't even need to look back to know that Chasing Bull had come over. Chasing Bull's strength had advanced from the Tao sculpting realm to the Tao birth realm. From the looks of it, cutting off the meat to stew soup had a great impact on it. It no longer slacked off in its cultivation. Hey, aren't you a little ghost Rot-Tan? Why are you carrying a small stool? Chasing Bull came over while wagging its tail. After respectfully flattering Ningqing, it immediately saw the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King. Chasing Bull didn't show much respect when speaking to the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King. The underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King glared at Chasing Bull and thought, "You're the small stool. Don't look at you as a Tao birth realm cultivator. I'm just a Tao sculpting cultivator. If it weren't for Master's sake, I would have sucked dry this stupid bull. Master, I just felt the aura of a spiritual plant's origin." After the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King glared at Chasing Bull, it immediately asked Ningqing about the light and darkness treasure tree. Ningqing waved his hand, "That's the heaven and earth splitting tree of this universe. Not to mention that you can't get it now, even if you could, you wouldn't have the ability to devour it. Or rather, I won't let you devour it." Sure enough, this fellow woke up because of the light and darkness treasure tree. Ningqing shook his head speechlessly. The light and darkness treasure tree had a much higher grade compared to the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King. Even if he obtained the light and darkness treasure tree, he wouldn't let the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King devour it. "Yes, Master." The underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King lowered the small stool helplessly. "Master." Just as Chasing Bull called out, Ningqing suddenly waved his hand, and his expression turned cautious. At the same time, he said, "Step aside." Before the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King could understand what was going on, Chasing Bull pulled the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King and said, "Small stool, hurry up and leave. Don't disturb Master's thoughts." The underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King, who wanted to quarrel with Chasing Bull, quickly shut up after seeing Ningqing's dignified expression and left with Chasing Bull. What that fellow said turned out to be true. Ningqing's gaze fell on the mysterious yellow bead's space and he muttered to himself with a cold tone. Inside his mysterious yellow bead, there was a law that was slightly different from the surrounding laws. Before Ningqing stepped into the third step, or rather, before he condensed his own laws to reach the third step, he wouldn't have been able to see this difference. But now that he had condensed his own laws to create a world and stepped into the third step, he felt this law as soon as he entered the mysterious yellow bead. Outsiders wouldn't enter his mysterious yellow bead, but this heaven and earth law was different from the original laws. There was only one reason for it, the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead. As for the reason, Ningqing guessed that it was the same as what the void voice in the slaughter world had told him. This heaven and earth law had guided the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead to come here and turn Ningqing into a spirit of good fortune. Ningqing sneered and didn't touch the law at all. He wanted to see who this fellow was. "You stay here and cultivate. I'll go to the radiant sacred domain first and then find a way back." Ningqing left Chasing Bull and the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King before leaving the mysterious yellow bead. Chasing Bull had walked for many years to reach the periphery of the heart of light and darkness from the radiant sacred domain. But now, Ningqing had returned to the first sacred lord region of the radiant sacred domain from the heart of light and darkness in just a few days. This was the difference in strength, a qualitative difference. After stepping into the third step, he no longer controlled heaven and earth laws, but his own laws. Ning Qing knew that he had just created a world, and the laws he condensed were still in their embryonic form. Once his laws became more complete, even if he was still in the creation realm, he was confident that he could step into the Sacred Lord region from the heart of light and darkness in just half a day. Once he integrated his own world and stepped into the amalgamation realm, he might be able to reach the Sacred Lord region from the heart of light and darkness in just a few steps. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept into the caves of Sacred Lord Zhu Jin and one of the 10 Dao monarchs, Yushi, without any fear. If someone slapped him on the left side of his face, he would immediately deliver the right side. It was not Ning Cheng's nature to not take revenge. He had come here to destroy the Yu clan's cave and then kill Yushi and Zhu Jin. To Ning Cheng's regret, Yushi and Zhu Jin were not in the cave. Not only were these two not here, but even Tang Shi was not here. If Tang Shi was here, Ning Cheng might not have killed him, but he would have taught this old thing a lesson. Unfortunately, he did not encounter any of them. Ning Cheng did not hesitate to step into the void and directly stepped on the heart of the Yu clan's defensive array formation. With Ning Cheng's current cultivation and understanding of the array Dao, just this step was enough to shatter the Yu clan's defensive array formation. Not only that, Ning Cheng once again punched out and destroyed Yushi's immortal cave. The people from the Yu clan could not even touch Ning Cheng's shadow. Although he would not start a massacre in the Yu clan, Ning Cheng did not show any mercy when he destroyed the Yu clan's defensive array and Yushi's cave. If Yushi was here, he would have killed him on the spot. Even if Zhu Jin was not in the Sacred Lord Mansion, Ning Cheng would not let him off. After destroying the Sacred Lord Mansion's array formation, Ning Cheng also turned Zhu Jin's Sacred Lord Mansion into ruins. I destroyed the Lei Fu Dao Gate. Aren't you a bird, Zhu Jin? Today, I'll destroy your Sacred Lord Mansion again. I'm not afraid of you coming for me. I'm afraid that you won't come for me. After destroying these two places, Ning Cheng took out the jade talisman Nong Shirua gave him and prepared to recall the 5-colored star splitter bow. Chapter 1432. When Ning Cheng left unhurriedly, not to mention the Sacred Master Mansion and the Yu clan, even the entire Sacred Master region was alarmed. Someone had come to the Sacred Master region and destroyed the cave mansion of Yushi, one of the 10 great Dao monarchs. He had even destroyed the Sacred Master Mansion's grand array and cave mansion. This was a challenge to the entire radiant sacred sky. Countless experts came out of seclusion. It was simply inconceivable for such a thing to happen in the Sacred Master region. What was even more unbelievable was that no one had seen who destroyed the Sacred Master Mansion and the Yu clan. How could they fight the enemy if they didn't see it? According to the people of the Yu clan who saw this scene, they only saw a huge footprint. This footprint destroyed the Yu clan's grand array restriction. Fortunately, that expert didn't seem to have started a massacre. Otherwise, no one from the Yu clan would have survived. 8 of the 10 Dao monarchs of the Sacred Master region weren't around. The other 2 Dao monarchs immediately gathered outside the destroyed Sacred Master Mansion. At the same time, they sent the news to the other Dao monarchs, including Sacred Master Zhu Jin and Yushi. This wasn't a trivial matter. If an expert from Darkness Sky came here and the Sacred Master region didn't even see the corner of his robe, the Sacred Master region would be in danger. Apart from the 10 great Dao monarchs, who else could stop such an expert? After the 2 Dao monarchs saw the ruins of the Sacred Master Mansion, they didn't chase after the enemy except to send the message. Perhaps the 2 of them knew that with their strength, even if they chased after the enemy, they would just be throwing away their lives. This is a peerless expert. I'm afraid he isn't any weaker than Brother Yi. A burly man with blue hair sighed. This person was one of the 10 great Dao monarchs of the Radiant Sacred Region, the patriarch of the True World Sacred Sect, Lei Sha. The man standing next to him had a pale face and was dressed like a Confucian scholar. He was also a realm integration expert. He was the patriarch of the Radiant Sacred Region Space Trade Association, Yinsen, one of the 10 great Dao monarchs. Yinsen frowned and didn't answer Lei Sha's words. Lei Sha continued, Brother Yin, I'm afraid this wasn't done by someone from Darkness Sky. Even if Darkness Sky wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, they wouldn't have such an expert. Moreover, Lei Sha paused. Yinsen understood what Lei Sha meant. The expert from Darkness Sky couldn't come at this time. Yinsen sighed and said, "If I'm not wrong, we all know this person." "Who is it?" Lei Sha asked subconsciously, and before Yinsen could answer, he understood, and exclaimed, "You mean the first outsider to enter the light vault?" Yinsen nodded solemnly. "It shouldn't be wrong. Who has a grudge against him?" Back in the Radiant Treasury, other than Sage Lord Ju, there was also Brother Yu who wanted to kill him. Now that Brother Yu and Sage Master Ju's immortal abodes were destroyed, and their immortal abodes were also destroyed, who else could it be other than him? As for Brother Tang, I'm afraid he only let him off because of Tang Hua. Lei Sha took a deep breath and said in shock, "Could it be that what Brother Yi said was true? He didn't find this person. Besides, this person shouldn't be so powerful, right? It seems like that's the case. I'm sure Brother Yi knows that no one will believe him no matter how he explains. That's why he's too lazy to explain." As for Ning Cheng's strength, he was already at the perfected Dao integration realm back then, and because of the treasures in the Radiant Treasury, he might have already reached the third step, Yinsen said. Lei Sha did not doubt Yinsen's words. Yinsen was a meticulous thinker and was famous for being wise among the 10 Dao lords. Brother Yin, there was no news of Brother Yi during the battle between Sacred Light Sect and Dark Sky. Where do you think he went? Lei Sha asked again. During the battle with Dark Sky, Yi Wenmao was the only one missing from the 10 Dao lords of the Radiant Sacred Region. At that time, everyone, including Zhu Jin, thought that Yi Wenmao had obtained Ning Cheng's item and gone into seclusion. If Yi Wenmao did not kill Ning Cheng, then Yi Wenmao obviously did not go into seclusion. 5,000 years ago, Brother Yi left the Radiant Sacred Region in a hurry, and there was no news of him after that. Now that Ning Cheng has appeared here, I'm afraid that Brother Yi has met with misfortune. Yinsen's tone contained a hint of sorrow. Even an expert like Yi Wenmao had fallen in pursuit of something. How could they avoid the same fate in the future? By now, Ning Cheng had already arrived at the periphery of the five-colored Star Splitter Plaza. When Nong Shirua had given him the Jade Talisman, Ning Cheng had only felt grateful. He knew very well that with his perfected Dao integration strength, it would be very difficult for him to take away the five-colored Star Splitter Bow without the Jade Talisman. The five-colored Star Splitter Plaza's defense array had completely fused with the five-colored Star Splitter Bow. Once he tried to take the five-colored Star Splitter Bow, not to mention the Bow's threat, even the entrapment array and the 10 Dao lords would be difficult to deal with. Now that the Jade Talisman appeared in Ning Cheng's hand again, anger surged in his heart. The Jade Talisman contained a strand of Soul Dao rune. Once he crushed the Jade Talisman, this strand of Soul Dao rune would fuse with his essence spirit and be controlled by someone else. The person who could control him was undoubtedly Nong Shirua. Ning Cheng and Nong Shirua had stayed together before, so he naturally knew her aura. He couldn't sense it back when he was at Dao integration. But now that he had successfully created a world and condensed his own laws to fuse with the world, he could sense it the moment he held the Jade Talisman. With Ning Cheng's current cultivation, even if this strand of Soul Dao rune fused with his essence spirit, he could still peel it off. But he still couldn't get over it. He had saved Nong Shirua's life, so why would Nong Shirua do this? No, Ning Cheng immediately understood the reason behind it. Nong Shirua didn't do it, and even Nong Shirua herself didn't know about it. Nong Shirua had also saved his life. With Nong Shirua's character, she would never do such a thing. It was Nong Shimu's doing. When Nong Shimu gave the Jade Talisman to his daughter, he had already prevented anyone from harming his daughter. If his daughter, Nong Shirua, crushed the Jade Talisman, it wouldn't affect her in the slightest. Once someone crushed the Jade Talisman, they would have to obey Nong Shirua's orders and become her puppet. When Nong Shirua gave him the Jade Talisman, she didn't know that the Jade Talisman could be controlled by a soul. After Ning Cheng understood this point, he felt a lot more relaxed in his heart. He didn't like the feeling of being betrayed by a friend. He and Nong Shirua had both saved each other's lives, and it could be considered as a friendship of life and death. If he was betrayed because of this, he wouldn't feel good about it. As a friend, if Nong Shirua said that she wanted the 5-colored star splitter bow, he would definitely give it to her. However, this Nong Shimu couldn't see through the Soul Dao runes engraved on it. From this, it showed that this fellow wasn't simple. Ning Qing put away the jade talisman and slowly walked towards the 5-colored star splitter square. Even without the jade talisman, with his current strength, he could still take away the 5-colored star splitter bow. The 5-colored star splitter square was a public place, and there were even some stalls on the edge. As long as one didn't touch the 5-colored star splitter bow, the restriction array here wouldn't be triggered. When Ning Qing arrived, there weren't many people in the 5-colored star splitter square. In the middle of the 5-colored star splitter square was a huge square platform made of white jade. Above this white jade square platform was a huge bow. The bowstring was pointed in the direction of darkness heaven. Apparently, apart from symbolism, this bow was also used to deal with darkness heaven. The bow's color seemed to be gray, but it also looked like a 5-colored rainbow. The bow wasn't connected to the white jade square platform. Instead, it hovered directly above the white jade square platform. A condensed killing power surrounded the bow. If one didn't use their spiritual consciousness to scan it, they would only feel a powerful pressure. If one used their spiritual consciousness to scan it, the killing power would directly strangle their spiritual consciousness. Ning Qing observed for a long time under the white jade square platform. He could see that the 5-colored star splitter bow was protected by a large defensive array. Outside this defensive array, there was a killing array, and outside the killing array was a trapping array. The 3 grand arrays locked the 5-colored star splitter bow, which made Ning Qing feel secretly shocked. If he hadn't reached the 3rd step world creation realm, he wouldn't have been able to take away the 5-colored star splitter bow even if he came here. Just as Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness slowly penetrated the periphery of the 5-colored star splitter bow, the killing power around the 5-colored star splitter bow suddenly surged. The endless killing intent rolled towards the 5-colored star splitter bow like a huge wave. At this moment, Ning Qing found himself in the middle of this endless killing power. The killing intent grew thicker and thicker. In the end, it almost tore Ning Qing to shreds and turned into a wave of killing intent. Ning Qing felt shocked. He had come here without doing anything. Moreover, his spiritual consciousness had just touched the periphery of the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power. Yet, the 5-colored star splitter bow had already been activated. This made Ning Qing feel a trace of fear. Was the 5-colored star splitter bow really this powerful? The 5-colored star splitter bow has been activated. Hurry up and retreat. The few people on the public square quickly retreated with horror after sensing the activation of the 5-colored star splitter bow. Everyone here knew that once the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power fully rolled up, any living creature left on the public square would turn into killing intent. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness did not hesitate to forcibly split open the surrounding killing intent and rushed into the 5-colored star splitter bow's killing power space. When he saw that the 5-colored star splitter bow had indeed been drawn, he saw a condensed killing intent converging on the 5-colored star splitter bow. At the same time, a faintly discernible long arrow was knocked on the 5-colored star splitter bow. Ning Qing understood that he wasn't the one who activated the 5-colored star splitter bow. The 5-colored star splitter arrow on the 5-colored star splitter bow wasn't aimed at him, but towards the north. Ning Qing no longer hesitated and stepped out into the void. He wanted to take away the 5-colored star splitter bow at this moment. Ning Qing had just lifted his foot when a violent killing intent swept over. It felt as if it wanted to lock Ning Qing under the white jade square platform. Ning Qing ignored this killing intent. Not to mention that the 5-colored star splitter bow had locked onto the opponent at this moment. Even if it didn't lock onto anyone, it couldn't do anything to him. With a slight movement of his toes, the billowing killing intent rushing towards Ning Qing immediately split apart. Almost at the same time, the trap and kill array activated, and a light Dao charm formed a cage-like trap array that locked onto Ning Qing. Chapter 1433. Ning Qing already knew that this would happen. Almost at the same time as he activated the killing array, he threw out several array flags and shot out the good fortune divine spear. An unobstructed passage appeared in front of Ningcheng, and Ningcheng easily stood at the top of the white jade square platform. At this time, the killing array had only just activated. But at this time, Ningcheng no longer had anything to do with the killing array. Whoosh! A long arrow that almost tore through the void shot out from the five-colored star splitter bow, and a violent killing power followed the arrow into the void. Ningcheng didn't care whether this arrow killed his opponent or not. The moment the arrow shot out, he raised his hand and grabbed the five-colored star splitter bow. A violent aura permeated over, and Ningcheng sneered. Sure enough, as he had guessed, there was a spiritual sense attached to the five-colored star splitter bow. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness shook slightly. He didn't need to attack at all, and the spiritual sense attached to the five-colored star splitter bow dissipated. Not waiting for the violent aura from the five-colored star splitter bow to interfere with him, Ningcheng raised his hand and shot out dozens of restrictions to wrap around the five-colored star splitter bow. Then, Ningcheng threw the five-colored star splitter bow into his own world. In his world, no matter how powerful the five-colored star splitter bow was, it had to settle down obediently. After Ningcheng put away the five-colored star splitter bow, the killing power on the public square dissipated in an instant. Even the killing array also became ordinary after Ningcheng blasted open the array entrance. Excuse me, is this the public square Dao Lord Ning who entered the light treasury first? A slightly rough voice arrived, and a blue-haired man landed on the five-colored star splitter square, which had gradually returned to its normal state. Behind the blue-haired man was a scholarly man with a white face and no beard. Ningcheng noticed that both of them were powerhouses in the convergence realm. Moreover, he had seen these two in the Light Treasury's main hall before. Presumably, they were two of the 10 Dao Lords of the Radiant Sacred Domain. Ningcheng didn't put away the good fortune divine spear. Instead, he carried it directly on his back and stood on the white jade square platform in the center of the public square. Yes, I'm Ningcheng. Did you two come here to fight me? If you want to fight, then I'll accompany you. If not, then I'm leaving. Dao Lord Ning, you must be joking. Although Lei Sha and I have been wrongly listed as one of the 10 Dao Lords of the Holy Region, our strength is far inferior to yours. How would we dare to fight you? This time, it was the fair-skinned Confucian who spoke. After Yinsen finished speaking, fearing that Ningcheng would make a move, she immediately said, Dao Lord Ning, this five-colored star splitter bow is the symbol of my bright light tomorrow. Dao Lord Ning, please don't take this bow. Even if Yinsen knew that Ningcheng would definitely take this bow away, he and Lei Sha, as the Dao Lords guarding the Radiant Sacred Region, would not dare to say a word. Ningcheng replied with a calm voice, is the five-colored star splitter bow something that belongs to you, Radiant Tomorrow? How come I didn't know? Since this bow belongs to you, luminous sky, why don't you see the arrows? As far as I know, this bow should be from another universe. That universe is called the Five Elements Universe. If Yinsen had said that the light and darkness treasure tree was the symbol of this place, he wouldn't have been able to refute. If one said that the five-colored star splitter bow belonged to the bright light tomorrow, then Ningcheng could only spit and stop bragging. Yinsen had no choice but to say, Dao Lord Ning is right. This bow does indeed come from the Five Elements Universe, but it ended up in the Holy Region. If Dao Lord Ning is from the Five Elements Universe, then I naturally have nothing to say. But if Dao Lord Ning isn't from the Five Elements Universe and you insist on taking this bow, I have nothing to say since I'm not as strong as Dao Lord Ning. Yinsen vaguely guessed that Ningcheng was from the Five Elements Universe. Anyway, he couldn't take the bow back, so these words were to give himself a way out. If Ningcheng wasn't from the Five Elements Universe, then it meant that he couldn't take the bow back, so he could take it away. If he took the five-colored star splitter bow, then he would have a Dao mark in his heart in the future. Ningcheng laughed. Even if he wasn't from the Five Elements Universe, he had condensed his own laws and evolved a world to reach the third step. He wouldn't have a Dao mark in this matter. However, he still stood at the top of the white jade square platform and looked at Einsun before saying, "Then I'll tell you that you're right. I'm from the Five Elements universe. But I also want to tell you that I came to take the five-colored star splitter bow because I like this bow. It has nothing to do with whether I'm from the Five Elements universe or not." Einsun was tongue-tied. He had previously said that if Ning Qing came from the Five Elements universe, then it was only right for him to take the bow. But it turned out that Ning Qing really came from the Five Elements universe. What surprised him even more was that Ning Qing directly said that he liked the bow, but he didn't give him a way out. What could he do about it? Leave the five-colored star splitter bow. A gray figure stepped down from the void and landed over the five-colored star splitter square. It was another Convergence Realm expert. When Ning Qing saw this person, he knew that the other party's strength wasn't any weaker than Yuan Mao. However, his Dao charm aura was slightly disordered. Ning Qing could tell at a glance that it was because of the arrow shot by the five-colored star splitter bow. Although half of the arrow's power had been reduced due to his interference, it still caused this Convergence Realm expert to suffer a loss. "Agnes, how can you come here?" Lei Sha, who stood next to Einsun, saw the gray-robed man. His expression changed drastically, and deep fear appeared in his eyes. At the same time, he brought out his weapon and stared at the gray-robed man in front of him. Einsun also brought out her weapon and stood next to Lei Sha. "Agnes, you're the Dao Monarch of Darkness Heaven. You openly tore through my Radiant Sacred Domain's defensive array and came in. Do you want to provoke another war between my Radiant Sacred Domain and Darkness Heaven?" "Ha!" The gray-robed man named Agnes laughed. "Do you think that we're not fighting again? You've already crossed the Sacred Domain River. What do you want to provoke another war?" After Agnes finished speaking, he didn't care about Einsun and Lei Sha at all. His gaze still fell on Ning Qing, and his tone turned sharp. "I'll give you 3 breaths. If you don't." Agnes's words stopped, and his gaze fell on the good fortune divine spear behind Ning Qing. A moment later, a hint of eagerness appeared in his eyes, and this eagerness grew more and more fanatical. Seeing Agnes's gaze, Lei Sha and Einsun looked at each other silently. They didn't even try to suppress Agnes with their imposing auras. Only when the Dao Monarch of Darkness Heaven came to this place did they realize what was going on. At this moment, they couldn't wait for Ning Qing and Agnes to fight. Ning Qing finally understood that this fellow was the Dao Monarch of Darkness Heaven. "If I came here, I would have opened the array door to come in. But you directly tore through the defensive array. You don't even have the slightest bit of politeness. Besides, when you came in, I helped you block half of the five-colored star splitter bow's power. Not only do you not know how to thank me, but you also want me to leave the star splitter bow behind. How can you be so mean?" Ning Cheng's tone contained a hint of sarcasm. Agnes didn't care about Ning Cheng's tone at all. He took another step forward and landed a few feet in front of Ning Cheng. He then spoke word by word, "Leave behind the spear and the five-colored star splitter bow on your back, and I will let you leave this place." This time, Ning Qing did not bother to pay attention to Agnes. The good fortune divine spear appeared in his hand, and he spoke to Lei Sha and Einsun, who were standing on both sides of him. "For the sake of the few friends I made in Radiant Heaven, I will help you kill this bug today." As he spoke, Ning Qing took a step forward, and the spear in his hand shot out layers of spear patterns that enveloped Agnes. When Agnes saw that Ning Qing, an ant who had just created a world, dared to attack him, he flew into a rage. However, this anger didn't last for more than half a breath before it turned into horror. Ning Cheng's spear patterns didn't have any majestic Dao charm fluctuations, but they easily created one spatial dislocation after another. At this moment, Agnes felt the void around him start to distort and collapse. An aura that didn't belong to this world locked onto him, making it impossible for him to go anywhere other than the spatial dislocations Ning Qing had created. At this moment, how could Agnes care about anything else? He brought out a giant yellow umbrella, and behind it was a spatial domain formed by black scales. Agnes only had one thought in his mind, and that was to escape immediately after blocking Ning Cheng's attack. he would run as far as he could. Previously, he had called Ning Cheng an ant, but now, compared to Ning Cheng, he wasn't even an ant. Ning Cheng was too strong, so strong that he couldn't even muster the will to resist. The Tao charm of the dark laws poured into the yellow umbrella and the black scales like a broken dam. In an instant, the umbrella and the black scales transformed into an endless spatial world. Behind these spatial worlds, Agnes kept retreating. Caw 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 caw, a series of cracking sounds could be heard. The giant yellow umbrella and the black scales didn't last long. No matter how many spatial worlds they created, they were all torn apart by the layers of collapsing space like paper. It seemed that before Ning Cheng's layers of spatial dislocations collapsed, all defensive artifacts were illusory and useless. Yin Sun and Lei Sha, who were watching from the square, were completely stunned. They knew how powerful Agnes was. Even if Yi Wenmao fought Agnes, he wouldn't have a 100% upper hand. Apart from Nong Shimu, there wasn't anyone in the Radiant Sacred Realm who could suppress Agnes. Now that Ning Cheng's spear had forced Agnes into such a state, just how strong was Ning Cheng? Puff! Although Agnes' defense was strong, it was still torn apart by Ning Cheng's traceless collapse. A mist of blood sprayed out, and Agnes' body was torn apart by the traceless collapse. Fortune Realm Powerhouse. Agnes screamed as his body completely shattered. Then, an essence spirit escaped, but before it could escape, it was caught by Ning Cheng's Tao Charm giant hand. Do you still want my spear? Ning Cheng looked at Agnes's essence spirit in his Tao Charm giant hand and said sarcastically. Junior doesn't know Senior is a Fortune Realm powerhouse. No matter how strong his will was, after countless years of hard work, even his essence spirit couldn't be preserved. The fate of having his soul destroyed still terrified Agnes, and he couldn't accept it. He didn't beg for mercy, and his tone was no different from begging for mercy. Fortune Realm Powerhouse. Ning Cheng sighed, and his Tao charm tightened, crushing Agnes into nothingness. Not to mention Fortune Realm, he had just stepped into the realm of Fortune Realm. Chapter 1434. Many thanks for the help, Tao Lord Ning. Yin Sun and Lei Sha suppressed the fear in their hearts and stepped forward to thank Ning Cheng. They knew that Ning Cheng was powerful, but they never thought that Ning Cheng would be powerful to such an extent. Even a powerhouse like Agnes couldn't put up much resistance in front of Ning Cheng. If the Radiant Holy Realm wanted to deal with Ning Cheng, it would be a joke. Fortunately, they hadn't helped Zhu Jin and Yushi back then. Otherwise, today would have been their death anniversary. Ning Cheng landed on the public square and asked, why are there only 2 of the 10 Tao Lords of the Radiant Sacred Region left? And where did Zhu Jin go? Yin Sun replied respectfully, the light origin beads suddenly appeared in the dark heaven. Not only that, but the light scroll also appeared in the dark heaven. Ning Cheng asked in doubt, isn't the radiant light scroll in the radiant treasury? Even if it's taken out, it should be in the hands of radiant brightness, right? Yin Sun said carefully, I wonder if you remember Master Seed. Ning Cheng nodded, he naturally remembered the seed mirror. If he hadn't suddenly joined the fight for the Radiant Storehouse, the first person to enter the Radiant Storehouse would have been Grandmaster Seed. Seeing Ning Cheng nod, Yin Sun continued, Grandmaster Jing Zhong took away the Radiant Scroll. Later, when Sacred Master wanted to ask Grandmaster Jing Zhong for the Radiant Scroll, Grandmaster Jing Zhong disappeared. The Radiant Scroll and the Radiant Origin Orb appeared in the sky of darkness at the same time. Since they belong to the Radiant Heavens, they can't possibly fall into the hands of the sky of darkness. Before Yin Sun could finish, Ning Cheng understood. So, Zhu Jin took the other Tao monarchs to the sky of darkness to snatch the origin bead of light and the light scroll? Yin Sun nodded. Yes. If we can take back the Radiant Scroll, all Tao Lords of the Sacred Region will be able to meditate on it. As for the light origin bead, it will also be engraved on this plaza. Yin Sun paused for a moment, then continued, logically speaking, as one of the most elite Tao Lords of the Dark Sky, Agnes should be engaged in battle with the Tao Lords of the Sacred Domain. I wonder why he's appeared here. I understand. Goodbye. After Ningqing finished this sentence, he took a step into the void and disappeared from the five-colored shattered star public square. Ningqing understood Yinsen's thoughts. She wanted him to investigate why Agnes appeared in the radiant holy realm. Ningqing did not have the slightest interest in this. What did Agnes' appearance have to do with him? It was definitely not a coincidence that the Radiance origin bead and the Radiance scroll had appeared at the same time. It must have been done by someone, but it had nothing to do with Ningqing. If he had not reached the third step, he would have been very concerned about the light origin bead. However, after he had condensed the laws and evolved his world, he had not even coveted the light and darkness treasure tree, let alone the light origin bead. Ningqing wanted to leave this side of the universe and return to the five-element universe. Back then, he had promised Mu Zuoxiao something, but because he couldn't return, he couldn't help him. Now that so many years had passed, the Great Change Realm had been ravaged by the demonic creatures. Even if there was a time difference between the two worlds, more than 100 years had passed in the Great Change Realm. As long as the Great Change Realm still existed, he could destroy those devils. So powerful. Could it be that he has really surpassed the boundary between worlds? How is this possible? Until Ningqing disappeared, Lei Sha spoke out in shock. Yinsen heaved a sigh of relief and said slowly, "It is rumored that those who have surpassed the integration realm would not be able to survive in this universe. Dao Lord Ning must still be in the creation realm. His realm should be different from ours. I'm afraid that he has created a supreme realm." Lei Sha nodded and was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. "The battle has reached the Sacred Region River. Close the Light Sacred Region's defensive array. Let's go." Yinsen had apparently received the same message. At this time, staying here to protect the Light Sacred Region was completely secondary. If the two sides fought to the Sacred Region River, it meant that the Light Sacred Region would be defeated. Ningqing stood on the edge of the Sacred Region River. Back then, he had almost been swept away by the huge waves of the Sacred Region River because he had touched the water here. Later, he had destroyed Tseng Leifu's body here. After 10,000 years, Ningqing came here again. Originally, Ningqing wanted to touch the water of the Sacred Region River. In addition, he also wanted to enter the Sacred Region River to find out if the Sacred Region River was the light and darkness universe's cosmic side. Standing by the Sacred Region River, Ningqing saw countless people fighting above the Sacred Region River. As a Dao Lord of the Taisu Dao Court, Ningqing had led tens of millions of Dao Court army into battle. He had seen such a shocking scene before. Compared to the Dao Court army of the Taisu Dao Court, this battle was even more cruel and merciless. The densely packed cultivators were blasted into the Sacred Domain River and disappeared without a trace, not even a drop of water splashed on the surface. What shocked Ningqing even more was that the countless cultivators fighting above the Sacred Region River were not sitting on the radiant treasure chariots. Most of them stood in the void, as if the Sacred Region River had become an ordinary river at this time. However, Ningqing knew that the Sacred Region River was definitely different from an ordinary river. Otherwise, the cultivators falling into it would not have not even created a single wave. Ningqing clenched his long spear and took a step forward. He easily stood above the Sacred Region River. There was no violent sweeping force under the Sacred Region River that swept him away. At this moment, the Sacred Region River looked like an ordinary place. Ningqing's spiritual consciousness fell into the Sacred Region River, but it still could not penetrate deeper. Even with so many people fighting above the Sacred Region River, it did not seem to affect the mood of the Sacred Region River. The Sacred Region River did not go berserk at all. Just as Ningqing stood above the Sacred Region River, a jet-black light blasted down. The jet-black light surrounded the law of darkness aura that controlled heaven and earth. This should be the attack of a world creator powerhouse. Ningqing was too lazy to move. He swung the creation divine spear in his hand, and a spear light directly swallowed the law of darkness aura. After swallowing the aura, the spear light did not stop. It continued to cut through space and tore a world creator powerhouse into pieces. The powerful Tao charm aura and a world creator powerhouse tore apart instantly, shocking all the powerhouses. At the same time, tens of thousands of spiritual consciousnesses swept towards Ning Cheng. However, when these spiritual consciousnesses were a few feet away from Ning Cheng, they were blocked by the Tao charm laws around Ning Cheng. "It's you." At this moment, at least a dozen people recognized Ning Cheng. Yushi almost immediately abandoned his opponent and landed in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng did not wait for Yushi to speak at all, and the spear pattern wrapped around Yushi. Within the spear pattern space, Ning Cheng's spear pattern tore through Yushi's protective domain like a rag. Compared to Ang Si, Yushi was far inferior. By the time the rest of the people rushed over, Ning Cheng had already turned Yushi into a bloody mist. After all this happened, Yushi only had time to show a look of shock. In his opinion, as long as he stalled Ning Cheng for a few breaths, Zhu Jin and the others would arrive and join forces to kill Ning Cheng. Unfortunately, not to mention entangling Ning Cheng, he couldn't even reach Ning Cheng's side before Ning Cheng killed him. As the Tao laws collapsed, Ning Cheng's creation divine spear once again swept out, wanting to tear apart Yushi's Tao laws. However, these scattered Tao laws were like weights that fell directly into the sacred region river. They did not even cause a ripple before disappearing without a trace. Ning Cheng felt shocked, and his spiritual consciousness started to observe even more carefully. In just a few breaths, Ning Cheng saw everything clearly. Apart from the cultivators who fell into the sacred region river, when people with low cultivation died, their blood qi, essence spirit, and even their souls would quickly seep into the sacred region river. When people with high cultivation died, their Tao laws wouldn't scatter into the world, but would be swept away by the sacred region river. There was something wrong with the sacred region river. This was the third time Ning Cheng had this feeling. The first time was when he and Tang Hua crossed the sacred region river. The second time was when he came to the sacred region river alone and wanted to take away a portion of the sacred region river's water. This was the third time. This time, his feeling was even more intense. Ning Cheng. Tang Shi was the first to rush over, followed by Zhu Jin and another expert from the fusing realm. Several Convergence Realm experts, who fought with Zhu Jin and the others, also rushed over. "Did you just kill Yushi?" After Tang Shi confirmed that it was Ning Cheng, he spoke up in disbelief. He could tell that Ning Cheng's strength had improved by a level compared to the last time, from the second step to the third step. Zhu Jin's expression kept changing. Yinsen and Lei Sha were about to arrive, but they hadn't reported what Ning Cheng had done in the Sacred Lord region. Therefore, they hadn't received any news about Ning Cheng taking away the five-colored star splitter bow. Ning Cheng glanced at Tang Shi and spoke, "I am only sparing you for the sake of Tang Hua, an ignorant man. Otherwise, I would have razed your Tang clan's cave to the ground. If you dare to act arrogantly again today, you will end up like Yushi." Zhu Jin's expression changed slightly. He only knew that someone had gone to the Sacred Lord region and destroyed his and Yushi's cave. It was just that he couldn't leave for a while. Only now did he realize that Ning Cheng was the one who destroyed his cave. Tang Shi's expression turned gloomy, and he didn't dare to make a move. His strength should be similar to Yushi's. Since Ning Cheng could kill Yushi in such a short time, it wouldn't take long for Ning Cheng to kill him. "This Tao friend, I'm Yates from Darkness Sky." "Tao friend, don't worry. If the people from the Radiance Sacred Region dare to besiege you, my Darkness Sky will definitely stand on your side." A black-robed Tao Lord immediately stepped forward and spoke to Ning Cheng after hearing his words. In his opinion, helping Ning Cheng was the same as helping Darkness Sky. "I just killed someone named Agnes. Was he a Tao Lord from your Darkness Sky?" Ning Cheng didn't buy it at all. A Tao Lord from Darkness Sky actually wanted to use him. "You killed Tao Lord Agnes?" Yates's expression changed. Immediately, the god-punishing hook in his hand transformed into hundreds of Tao laws of darkness and swept towards Ning Cheng. At the same time, the other two people beside Yates also brought out their weapons. Ning Cheng didn't move at all. Instead, he rolled up his long spear. The spear patterns tore through space, and Yates's hundreds of Tao laws of darkness were devoured by the layers of torn space created by Ning Cheng's spear patterns. Not even a single ripple could be seen. A dislocated void aura spread out, and Yates and the two Tao lords beside him revealed looks of horror. Chapter 1435. They couldn't help but feel fear. An expert who could create a spatial rift above the sacred domain river was much stronger than them. Just as the thought of escaping rose in their minds, Ning Cheng's domain power crushed down once again. Bang! Bang! Two bloody mists exploded. Apart from the Tao Lord who managed to escape, Yates and the other Tao Lord were torn to shreds by Ning Cheng's traceless collapse. Ning Cheng noticed that the moment Yates and the other Tao Lord died, the scattered Tao laws sank directly into the sacred region river and disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng retracted his spiritual sense. He would slowly study the sacred domain river later. He looked at the Tao Lord who escaped. Although he didn't chase after him, he knew that this fellow was very scheming. The moment he mentioned Agnes, Yates immediately attacked him. The two people behind Yates also took out their magic treasures and rushed over. In reality, only one of them rushed over. The other pretended to rush over, but what he was really doing was quickly retreating. Clearly, the one who retreated had made the judgment in the shortest time possible and knew that he would die if he rushed forward. That was why he pretended to rush forward while actually retreating. This kind of judgment wasn't difficult to make. Since Ning Cheng could kill Agnes without suffering any injuries, his strength must be above theirs. What's more, was a Tao Lord that easy to kill? Even if they couldn't beat him, they could still escape. Since Agnes didn't escape, it meant that Ning Cheng's strength was not only above theirs, but far beyond theirs. Agnes didn't even have a chance to escape. Zhu Jin, I think we should settle the score. Ning Cheng turned his head and looked at Zhu Jin, who wasn't far from him. Zhu Jin's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, even if he was given 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to attack Ning Cheng. He naturally knew that Yates was slightly weaker than him, but Yates couldn't even last a single round in front of Ning Cheng before dying. If he fought Ning Cheng, he wouldn't end up much better than Yates. Moreover, Ning Cheng's spirit technique not only killed Yates, but also another Tao Lord from the darkness sky. Tao Lord Ning, Zhu Jin, was in the wrong for what happened in the Radiant Hall previously. I apologize to you. Now that the dark sky has launched a large-scale attack on my luminous mystic realm, I hope that Tao Lord Ning will forgive us on account that we are all from luminous mystic realm. Even though Zhu Jin was a holy lord, he had no choice but to lower his head at this moment. Tang Shi's face was even paler, and his heart was filled with endless regret. Originally, Ning Cheng could have become a distinguished guest of his Tang clan, but now he had turned into an enemy of his Tang clan. Ning Cheng showed a smile and spoke with a hint of disdain, Zhu Jin, you're wrong again. I'm not radiant tomorrow. Whether radiance tomorrow is destroyed or not, it has nothing to do with me. Big brother Ning, please show some mercy. A crisp voice arrived. Ning Cheng did not even need to use his spiritual consciousness to see, as he knew that Tang Hua had arrived. Tang Shi must have sent a message for Tang Hua to come here. Ning Cheng did not guess wrong, Tang Hua was indeed called over by Tang Shi. It was not that Tang Shi wanted Tang Hua to save Zhu Jin, but rather that Tang Shi was afraid that Ning Cheng would kill him after killing Zhu Jin. Long time no see. Ning Cheng nodded to Tang Hua. No matter what reason Tang Hua had for inviting him, he still felt grateful. Without Tang Hua, he could not have obtained the primal chaos gray stone, nor could he have comprehended for 5,000 years and finally condensed his own world. Moreover, when Tang Shi dealt with him, Tang Hua also wanted to speak, however, she was not qualified to speak. Tang Hua bowed to Ning Cheng, congratulations to Big Brother Ning for making great progress in your cultivation. Senior Zhu is the sacred lord of my radiant tomorrow. If something happened to him, it would be a huge blow to my radiant tomorrow. I hope that Big Brother Ning will show some mercy. After Zhu Jin saw Ning Cheng's strength, he understood that Ning Cheng could kill him with ease. After Tang Hua pleaded, he quickly cupped his fists and spoke, Dao Lord Ning, I was blinded by the treasures in the Radiance treasury and wanted to attack Dao Lord Ning. To make up for my mistake, I just obtained the Radiance scroll. I will give this Radiance scroll to Brother Ning as an apology. After saying that, without waiting for Ning Cheng to answer, Zhu Jin raised his hand and took out an ancient scroll. Ning Cheng waved his hand, and the Radiance scroll appeared in his hand. He had seen the Radiance scroll in the Radiance treasury, so he knew that Zhu Jin did not lie to him. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the Radiance scroll, and with a wave of his hand, the Radiance scroll disappeared without a trace. This Zhu Jin truly was a despicable person. He first stated that he loved treasures. The implication was that in that situation, if someone else was in his shoes, they would have made the same choice. Then, taking advantage of Tang Hua's plea, he took out the Radiance scroll to save his life. In fact, Ning Cheng also understood the meaning behind Tang Hua's words. At least at this time, Zhu Jin still had some use. Since he killed Zhu Jin, then Radiant tomorrow would definitely lose. What about the Radiance origin bead? Ning Cheng did not stop here. This time, without waiting for Zhu Jin to speak, a Dao Lord next to him took the initiative to speak up. We did not see the Radiance origin bead. We only came here because we saw the Radiance scroll. We even suspect that someone deliberately said that the Radiance origin bead was in the dark sky, so that we could fight for it. At this moment, Ning Cheng saw the people in the melee suddenly separate. The people from the dark sky retreated like a receding tide. At the same time, Zhu Jin sent out several messages, and the people from Radiant Tomorrow also started to retreat. The Sacred Domain River gradually opened up, and the sky above the Sacred Domain River, where countless people had fallen, no longer had the faint smell of blood after the two sides retreated. The people from the dark sky clearly knew that Ning Cheng had easily killed Yates and the other Dao Lord. Since such a powerhouse from Radiant Tomorrow came, they naturally did not dare to continue. Even if there was a conspiracy, they still had to retreat. In the face of absolute strength, conspiracies were just a joke. We also have to quickly retreat from the Sacred Domain River. Once the two sides stop fighting, the sky above the Sacred Domain River will soon return to its original state. Without the Radiance Treasure Chariot, we would not be able to survive in the sky above the Sacred Domain River. The Dao Lord who spoke before spoke up again. Ning Cheng's heart moved. Only when the two sides fought would the sky calm down. Once the battle ended, the sky above the Sacred Domain River would turn problematic. This Sacred Domain River was indeed strange. Tang Hua, many thanks for bringing me into the Radiance Treasury. You have a Radiance scroll in your ring, which I just put in. This Radiance scroll has no use for me, so I'll give it to you. Ning Cheng secretly sent the Radiance scroll into Tang Hua's ring and sent a sound transmission to her. Tang Hua froze for a moment before sobering up. She took out a large jade box and handed it to Ning Cheng. Big brother Ning, I'll give this to you. I don't have much use for it. Ning Cheng took a look at the jade box and immediately knew what was inside. It was a piece of heaven-opening mother iron. This thing was too precious. Although he gave the Radiance scroll to Tang Hua, he did not intend for Tang Hua to give him anything. Tang Hua did not wait for Ning Cheng to speak and spoke up again. Big brother Ning did not care about the matter of the Radiant Palace. Tang Hua is very grateful. This thing is just a small token of my appreciation. In fact, it's not a good thing. Since Tang Hua had already spoken to this point, Ning Cheng also did not speak anymore. He raised his hand and took the heaven-opening mother iron before saying to Tang Hua, "Thank you. The next time I come, I'll give you a weapon." Tang Hua truly couldn't refine the heaven-opening mother iron. In fact, there were only a few people in Radiant Heaven who could refine the heaven-opening mother iron. Besides, Tang Hua might not dare to let others refine it. Now that she said that she wanted to thank Ning Cheng for not caring about the matter of the Radiant Palace, it meant that Zhu Jin owed her a favor. What harm was there in giving this favor to Tang Hua? After he refined the heaven-opening mother iron into a weapon, he would give it to Tang Hua the next time. Zhu Jin, this time, I'll give face to Tang Hua and not care about what happened last time. You can take Radiant Heaven's people back. Ning Qing spoke with a stern tone. Many thanks, Dao Lord Ning. Zhu Jin didn't want to speak another word with Ning Qing. Together with the other Dao Lords, he took Radiant Heaven's people and withdrew from the Sacred Domain River as fast as possible. Being together with a powerhouse like Ning Qing made him feel uncomfortable. By the time Ning Qing landed on the edge of the Sacred Domain River, the Sacred Domain River had already disappeared. Zhu Jin retreated quickly. As soon as he reached the edge of the Sacred Domain River, he quickly left with Radiant Heaven's people. The sky above the Sacred Domain River regained its emptiness and quietness. The Sacred Domain River still looked like a mirror, without even the slightest ripple. Who knew how many powerhouses fell into the Sacred Domain River and disappeared without a trace in the battle just now? Whether the Sacred Domain River was the boundary of the light and dark universe or not, the Sacred Domain River wasn't a simple place. Ning Qing came here this time to enter the Sacred Domain River, but he wasn't in a hurry. He had already waited for 10,000 years, so why would he care about waiting for a few more days? Not far from the Sacred Domain River, Ning Qing entered the mysterious yellow bead and took out the 5-colored star splitter bow. Before entering the Sacred Domain River, he had to refine the 5-colored star splitter bow. In terms of strength, Ning Qing was now several times stronger than when he was at the peak of Dao integration. What's more, the third step realm creation was a complete qualitative change compared to the second step. Even so, Ning Qing couldn't guarantee that he would be safe after entering the Sacred Domain River. The 5-colored star splitter was a Khanate weapon. Now that the bow and arrow had merged into one, as long as he refined it, even Xing Shi might not be able to avoid this arrow. A few days later, Ning Qing came out of the mysterious yellow bead. Initially, there was only a faint shadow of an arrow on his wrist. But now, next to the arrow shadow, there was an additional shadow of a longbow. In just a few days, Ning Qing refined the 5-colored star splitter bow. Although he didn't test the power of the 5-colored star splitter bow, he felt sure that this arrow could easily kill a realm-merging powerhouse like Yi Wen Mao. The Sacred Domain River remained as calm as a mirror, without any fluctuations. Ning Qing carried the long spear on his back and slowly walked to the edge of the Sacred Domain River. His spiritual consciousness began to slowly penetrate the Sacred Domain River. Just like before, Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness didn't affect the surface of the Sacred Domain River at all. But when his spiritual consciousness was about to penetrate deeper into the Sacred Domain River, an extremely powerful force blocked it. This time, Ning Qing was prepared. Without any compromises, his spiritual consciousness burst out and pierced into the bottom of the Sacred Domain River without any scruples. Boom boom boom. As Ning Qing expected, the calm surface of the Sacred Domain River started to turn violent. Huge waves, ranging from a few dozen feet to a few hundred feet, rolled up out of thin air, and one wave after another, blasted towards Ning Qing, who was standing by the Sacred Domain River. Chapter 1436. Ah! A few dozen miles away from the edge of the Sacred Domain River, a woman with an average appearance and a hot body screamed when she saw the raging waves of the Sacred Domain River. At the same time, she stopped in her tracks. When she saw the raging waves rolling towards Ning Qing standing by the river, she exclaimed, "That's Ning Qing. He actually angered the Sacred Domain River." At the same time, Ning Qing also saw Liz flying over. He didn't take it to heart. After all, he and Liz weren't familiar with each other. Ning Qing only glanced at Liz before turning his gaze to the raging waves. In the face of the raging waves, Ning Qing not only didn't bring out the good fortune divine spear to attack, he didn't even move. Two law domains rose around him at the same time. One was a protective domain created from the original law domain of heaven and earth, and the other was a protective domain created from his own world formation laws. Without entering the Sacred Domain River, no matter how much he guessed, he wouldn't know the situation of the Sacred Domain River. Without knowing the situation of the Sacred Domain River, he would never be able to leave the light and dark universe through the Sacred Domain River. He wanted to take this opportunity to enter the Sacred Domain River and have a look. Rather than going in by himself, it was better to be swept into the raging waves. The waves of the sacred domain river swept over, and Ning Cheng, who stood by the sacred domain river, became like a speck of dust. The waves of the sacred domain river swept him away and disappeared without a trace. After sweeping Ning Cheng away, the raging waves of the sacred domain river quickly receded and disappeared in a blink of an eye. The entire sacred domain river returned to its original calm, and the river once again became a mirror-like surface without any ripples. It's too late. He actually provoked the sacred domain river and got swept away by it. Liz murmured. Are you sure it's him? Another woman next to Liz asked. Compared to Liz's ordinary appearance, this woman had a peerless appearance. She had willow-like eyebrows and snow-white skin, and her eyes looked even more spirited. If Ning Cheng had to compare, he would definitely say that the other party didn't lose out to Xing Shi in terms of appearance, except for her aura and strength. Liz seemed to remember that she didn't come alone and quickly turned around and said, Sister Ziyuan, I'm sure I didn't see it wrong. That's definitely Ning Cheng. Unfortunately, I did not record the crystal image, otherwise, if I showed it to Elder Sister Tang Hua, then Elder Sister Tang Hua would definitely be able to recognize that it was Ning Cheng. The peerlessly beautiful woman calmly took out a crystal ball and said, I recorded it just now. After saying that, she made a few hand seals and enlarged the image on the crystal ball. Liz saw it even more clearly this time. Sister Ziyuan, that's right, it's him. I didn't expect him to offend the Saint River and cause such a thing. The beautiful woman whom Liz had addressed as Sister Ziyuan put away the crystal ball and frowned slightly. Why do I feel that he didn't seem to be swept away by the waves of the sacred river? It seems like he deliberately entered the sacred river. Liz laughed. Sister Ziyuan, you've been cultivating in seclusion for too long. Would anyone be able to escape from the waves of the Saint Domain River? It was said that once those waves came, they would immediately bind the laws of the entire world. Anyone who faced the waves of the sacred domain river could only wait for death. Otherwise, who would be willing to be swept away by the Saint River? Ziyuan nodded, you're right. After all, not everyone has Senior Nong's strength. Senior Nong was also swept away by the waves of the sacred river? Liz asked in surprise. Ziyuan subconsciously replied, I've heard of such a thing. Moreover, it was rumored that the reason why Senior Nong was seriously injured was not because of his battle with Dark Sky, but because he stirred the waters of the sacred river. At this point, Ziyuan seemed to have thought of something and changed her words. After all, these are just rumors. Let's go to the sacred river to take a look. But, hearing that Ziyuan wanted to go to the sacred river, Liz recalled the roar of the sacred river just now and hesitated. Ziyuan spoke up calmly, as long as we don't touch the sacred river, it won't riot. We're just watching from the side. There's nothing wrong. Alright. Liz knew that Ziyuan was right. As long as the sacred river didn't take the initiative to provoke it, stir the waters, or use spiritual consciousness to spy on it, it wouldn't riot under normal circumstances. The two of them stood by the sacred river. The sacred river was so dry that not even a drop of water splashed onto the ground. It was as if the raging waves that rolled up to the shore didn't originate from this place. Ziyuan lowered her head and looked around. After confirming that she couldn't find a drop of water, she sighed, sure enough, waves of 30,000 li don't get wet. Elder Sister Ziyuan, there are 2 more sentences. People disappear without a trace, like a flat mirror. Liz added. Ziyuan shook her head and didn't speak again. As long as the waves of the sacred river rolled up, any traces of people under the waves would disappear without a trace. After the sacred river went berserk, it would turn into a flat mirror with nothing in it. That was exactly what they saw in front of them. The waves of the sacred river surged up, and after sweeping Ning Cheng away, it once again turned into a calm mirror-like sacred river. The raging waves rolled up and caught Ning Cheng like an ant before sweeping him to the bottom of the sacred river. Ning Cheng immediately realized what was going on the moment the waves rolled over him. The waves of the sacred river were made up of Tao charm laws. The entire sacred river was like a supreme powerhouse, and every drop of water was a part of this powerhouse's Tao charm. No wonder it was so difficult for him to absorb the river water. If someone wanted to grab a trace of his Tao aura for no reason, he would definitely not allow that person to do so. The Tao charm laws of the sacred river were completely different from the laws of heaven and earth of the light and darkness universe. Obviously, this powerhouse was like him, a powerhouse who had fused his own laws to form a world. It was just that his world hadn't fully condensed yet, while the other party's world had already taken shape. This world was the sacred river. Ning Qing wasn't the only one who had condensed their own Tao laws and stepped into the third step world creation realm. Ning Qing sighed in his heart and became even more cautious. He accidentally broke into someone else's world, which wasn't a good thing for him. He really couldn't figure out why someone created their own world and placed it in the light and darkness universe. Was it to absorb the heaven and earth Tao laws of the fallen cultivators during the battle between the light and darkness heavens? Since he could use his own laws to condense the sacred river, why would he use such an inferior method to improve his cultivation? The waves swept Ning Qing deep into the bottom of the sacred river, and the violent Tao charm continuously eroded Ning Cheng's protective domain. Even if he fell into someone else's world, Ning Cheng would never let his protective domain get devoured by someone else. Even if the protective domain of the outside universe got devoured, he still had his own domain with its own laws. When Ning Qing understood that the sacred river was the condensation of a powerhouse's Tao charm, Ning Qing immediately wanted to rush out of the sacred river. In any case, staying in someone else's world would be dangerous for him. When another wave swept over, Ning Qing managed to block the powerful Tao charm bombardment. But at the same time, Ning Cheng's mind moved. He suddenly thought that his thoughts might be wrong. If the sacred river was truly a world condensed by someone else, then after he fell into the sacred river, an even more powerful devouring force should have already swept over. In fact, although the devouring force in front of him was strong, it couldn't do anything to him. Not only that, but the sacred river's waves also contained a trace of water vapor, which contained the aura of the light and darkness universe's laws of heaven and earth. Could it be that the sacred river originally existed between the light and darkness universes? When a powerhouse came here, he could have condensed his own Tao charm laws to create a world. But instead, he took off his pants to fart and used his own Tao charm laws to refine the sacred river. Forcibly turning the sacred river's heaven and earth laws into his own Tao sense and turning the sacred river into his own world. Ning Qing felt that it was ridiculous when he thought about it. Just like him, he could condense his own laws to create a world. Why would he use his own Tao charm laws to refine the sacred river to create a world? Not only was it a waste of time, but it also had far less potential than a world condensed by one's own laws. The only advantage was that as long as he had time, there was no possibility of failure. Thinking of this, Ning Qing no longer had any thoughts of going out. If the sacred river really was a world that a latecomer wanted to refine and integrate with his own laws, he didn't need to worry about it. At least for now, the sacred river hadn't turned 100% into the other party's world. Ning Qing felt a trace of water vapor just now. This trace of aura wasn't unique, but the aura of the light and darkness universe's water-attributed laws. Letting the waves of the sacred river sweep him away, Ning Qing raised his hand and grabbed a fist of sacred river water. The moment Ning Qing grabbed the fist of sacred river water, an even more violent tearing force swept towards him. Ning Qing felt as if the space around him was constantly exploding and tearing apart. An angry roar came from the waves that wrapped around him, and all kinds of strange laws kept pulling at him. Ning Qing, who was pulled by the laws in this violent space, remained calm. However, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he had reached the third step before coming to the bottom of the sacred river. If he had still been in the Tao integration realm, he would have already been torn apart by the terrifying roar of laws at the bottom of the sacred river. Ning Qing didn't make a move but let the laws sweep him away. His spiritual consciousness fell on the fist of river water in his hand. When Ning Qing completely disintegrated the fist of river water, he was even more convinced that his guess was correct. This river was formed by Tao runes, and there was a law that was different from any of the 5 elements universe or the light and darkness universe in it. Because this fist of river water hadn't completely transformed into the unique Tao charm law, it still had a trace of water vapor aura under the light and darkness universe's laws. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness blasted into the fist of river water, and his spiritual consciousness exploded and tore apart the law aura. After tearing apart the unique Tao charm law in this fist of river water, the fist of river water started to change. The purest light and darkness law aura lingered in it. Ning Cheng felt sure that if someone who cultivated a light and darkness cultivation method cultivated in this environment, they would definitely make rapid progress. Chapter 1437. After Ning Cheng shattered the Tao charm absorbed from the river, the raging waves around him calmed down in an instant. Bang! Ning Cheng's feet landed on the hard bottom of the sacred domain river, and everything around him turned dark. The sacred domain river's water seemed to have a spiritual nature and surrounded Ning Cheng in the middle. In front of Ning Cheng was a mess of ancient corals, and Ning Cheng's gaze fell on one of the corals. After half an incense stick worth of time, Ning Cheng spoke up in a calm voice, "Since you've captured me, then come out." Sure enough, just as Ning Cheng's voice fell, a figure suddenly rose from the corals. When this figure floated above the corals, he suddenly took a step forward and landed on the open space in front of Ning Cheng. The sacred domain river's water constantly washed back and forth around this person. It felt like the river was part of his body, and he could control it at will. However, Ning Cheng's heart calmed down. His guess wasn't wrong. The sacred domain river wasn't a boundary condensed by other people's laws, but a natural existence. Someone at the bottom of the sacred domain river wanted to use his own laws to merge with the sacred domain river and turn the sacred domain river into a private boundary. The person who wanted to merge with the sacred domain river and turn the sacred domain river into his own boundary stood in front of him at this moment. Ning Cheng didn't speak. Instead, his gaze swept over this person a few times. This person didn't look more than a meter tall, comparable to Xiao Wuxin. His body looked like waves of water ripples, and his Tao charm aura constantly merged with the surrounding sacred domain river. However, his strength was unexpectedly low. He was still at the middle stage of creation realm and definitely not at the convergence realm. If Ning Cheng hadn't stepped into the third step, he wouldn't have understood what was going on. At this moment, Ning Cheng clearly understood that this person's Tao charm was constantly refining the sacred domain river. In other words, this person's own laws were constantly assimilating the sacred domain river's heaven and earth laws. "You're very strong." The man with ripples all over his body looked at Ning Cheng for a long time before speaking slowly. His voice sounded like a bucket of water falling from a high place onto a cement floor, somewhat broken. Ning Cheng didn't answer. This ripple-patterned man's words were nonsense. If he wasn't strong enough, he would have already ended up like the sacred domain river, or the cultivators who fell into the sacred domain river, turning into this person's Tao charm aura. "No matter how strong you are, I will still be able to shatter your Tao aura protection and turn you into a Tao law of my sacred region river, just like the ants that have fallen into it." The man with the ripples on his face sounded a little colder. Ning Cheng spoke with a calm voice, "You're also very strong. If you were a little more powerful, you could even blow through the boundaries of the light and dark universes. The bulls in the light and dark universe will be extinct because you have blown them to death. I'll stand here without moving and let you scratch me. Let's see if a dwarf like you can do anything to me." The ripple-patterned man snorted and suddenly took a step forward. His entire body turned into a sharp Taoist aura. The Tao aura of the sacred domain river surged over and gathered within this sharp Tao aura. Following that, this Tao aura tore through the void and all the laws as it blasted towards Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng didn't move at all, just as he said. Instead, he formed a space-collapsing spirit technique outside the protective domain formed by his own laws. Boom, kacha. The ripple-patterned man's Tao aura slammed into Ning Cheng's protective domain. Ning Cheng's protective domain shattered and exploded into nothingness. The Tao charm laws that formed the protective domain exploded into nothingness at this moment. The ripple-patterned man's eyes flashed with joy before turning into shock. After easily shattering Ning Cheng's Dao Charm domain, he discovered that Ning Cheng didn't have one protective domain, but two. The first one was formed by the laws of the universe outside, while the second one was formed by Ning Cheng's own Dao Charm laws. His attack tore through Ning Cheng's first protective domain, but it was devoured by the vast void within the second protective domain. Before he could figure out Ning Cheng's Dao Charm laws. Unless his strength could crush Ning Cheng, he couldn't tear through Ning Cheng's protective domain so easily. I didn't guess wrong. You also successfully condensed your own laws to create a realm and reached the third step. This is the strongest third step in the vast universe. In time, you will be the master of this universe. The man didn't seem to remember that he had just attacked Ning Cheng, but he couldn't do anything to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng smiled faintly and didn't speak despite the man's praise. The man's eyes no longer looked relaxed, and his tone became dignified. That's right. If you hadn't condensed your own laws to create a realm, you wouldn't have survived in my sacred domain river. My sacred domain river is condensed by my Tao laws. Without my consent, no one in the entire light and dark universe would have survived. Therefore, you aren't from the light and dark universe. At this point, the man's tone became sharp. Since you aren't from the light and dark universe, and you can use your own laws to condense your own realm, why are you looking for trouble with me? We don't have anything to do with each other. Do you think that I, Tamu, can be bullied? Tamu. That name sounds very imposing. Ning Cheng showed a sarcastic smile. This guy actually came up with such a speechless name. This guy's vision really wasn't just for show. However, this Tamu wasn't someone easy to deal with. If he could do anything to Ning Cheng, it wouldn't have ended with just a try. Tamu's face turned gloomy, and like Ning Cheng, he remained silent. Ning Cheng's tone changed, and he spoke with a hint of sternness. Tamu, from the beginning to the end, you were the one who attacked this lord. Isn't it funny to say that we don't have anything to do with each other? If this lord hadn't condensed his own law realm, I'm afraid that you would have killed me a long time ago. You turtle bastard, how dare you say that we don't have anything to do with each other? Don't you have any shame? Tamu looked at Ning Cheng in a daze. He didn't think that Ning Cheng, a third-step expert who condensed his own laws into a realm, would speak like a child. Turtle bastard, wasn't this too tasteless? Tamu's face quickly turned gloomy. This Tao friend, the sacred domain river is mine. The entire sacred domain river is condensed by my Tao charm. Tao friend, don't you know that? Tao friend, you entered my realm, yet you blame this lord for attacking you? Towards the end, Tamu seemed to have been influenced by Ning Cheng and started to refer to himself as this lord. Ning Cheng spoke up speechlessly. Tamu, you might be able to deceive others with your words, but don't you think it's a little lacking to deceive me? The sacred domain river is clearly a place of the light and dark universe. You forcibly occupied this place and wanted to use the laws you condensed to refine the sacred domain river and integrate it into your own realm. Do you still have the face to say that the sacred domain river is yours? Do you dare say that you've refined the sacred domain river? Tamu suddenly laughed. Is the sacred domain river part of the light and dark universe? Then let me tell you. When the light and dark universe first separated, I, Tamu, was taken in as a child by the light and dark sacred master to control the sacred domain river. The light and dark sacred master was a peerless powerhouse, and he took me in as a child to control the sacred domain river. Because my qualifications were too strong, the light and dark sacred master later accepted me as a disciple. But after the light and dark universe stabilized, the light and dark sacred master wanted to leave. Do you know what he did to me? At this point, Tamu's eyes filled with grief and indignation. He raped my Tao companion and then apologized to me, saying that it was unintentional. Ning Cheng frowned and didn't speak. He could imagine what kind of powerhouse the light and dark sacred master was when the light and dark universe first separated. Such a powerhouse would rape his own disciple's Tao companion. It was the biggest joke in the world. Later, I found out that he wanted to leave the light and dark universe, but he couldn't find an excuse to imprison me in the sacred domain river. Before Tamu finished, Ning Cheng understood. The light and dark sacred master wanted to leave the light and dark universe, but he was afraid that no one would control the sacred domain river. That's why he created trouble to make his disciple hate him. Then, he imprisoned Tamu at the bottom of the sacred domain river and guarded it. But what was the point of guarding the sacred domain river? That's right, it must be the universe realm. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness finally saw two faint gray-colored spiritual soul lights passing through Tamu's body and stringing Tamu together. Obviously, the shackles that Tamu mentioned should be these two gray lights. No wonder you condensed your own laws but didn't evolve your own world. Instead, you wanted to refine the sacred domain river. Ning Cheng suddenly understood. Tamu couldn't leave the sacred domain river. Ning Cheng's tone was calm, but he was shocked in his heart. Who was the light and dark sacred master? A boy under him could also condense his own laws. How could this person be so powerful? Tamu understood what Ning Cheng meant. He shook his head and said, "It's not like that. Even if I can leave the sacred domain river, I can't use my own laws to evolve a world and reach the third step. It's already a great opportunity for me to turn the sacred domain river into my own world of laws. Once I succeed in merging the realms, I can break free from the shackles and leave this place." Ning Cheng's heart moved slightly. He seemed to have grasped something, but it wasn't very clear. "Tamu, do you think that the light and dark sacred master didn't calculate that you would use the sacred domain river to create a realm here and leave the light and dark universe with the sacred domain river after merging the realms? In order to merge the realms as soon as possible, the war between dark sky and bright sky must have something to do with you, right? Besides, I'm afraid that after you merge the realms, you won't leave the light and dark universe. You'll have to integrate the entire light and dark universe," Ning Cheng said sarcastically. Tamu's tone became even sharper. "The light and dark universe belongs to Qin Mutian. Since Qin Mutian treated me like this, what's wrong with me refining the light and dark universe? Don't think that I don't know what you're doing here. You want to use the sacred domain river to leave the light and dark universe. Since I, Tamu, can't escape Qin Mutian's hands." Tamu's words stopped, and then his shocked gaze fell on the good fortune divine spear behind Ning Cheng. He completely forgot to continue speaking. Qin Mutian. That should be the name of the light and dark sacred master, right? No wonder this fellow named himself Tamu. Chapter 1438. After seeing the good fortune divine spear on Ning Cheng's back, Tamu's tone suddenly became excited and even a lot more polite. "I wonder what this Dao friend's name is?" Ning Cheng. Seeing Tamu's gaze fall on the good fortune divine spear behind him, Ning Cheng vaguely guessed something. Sure enough, after hearing Ning Cheng's words, Tamu followed up, "Brother Ning, the reason why Qin Mutian attaches so much importance to the sacred river is because you guessed it right. This is indeed the light and dark universe's cosmic surface. Is this the only way to leave the light and dark universe?" Ning Cheng felt overjoyed. Tamu spoke with a calm voice, "If you have the ability, you can leave the light and dark universe from anywhere. You can tear apart any part of the universe with just a raise of your hand, so how can you talk about the cosmic surface? If you don't have the strength, the only way to leave the light and dark universe is through the sacred river." Ning Cheng didn't ask Tamu about the bottom of the Jiaoyang Mountain's perpetual moon abyss. He guessed that even Tamu didn't know about that place. Since he couldn't figure out the reason for the perpetual moon abyss right now, he would eventually figure it out one day in the future. "I want to leave through the sacred river." Ning Cheng didn't bother to talk to Tamu anymore and spoke up straightforwardly. Tamu already knew what Ning Cheng meant and spoke up in a straightforward manner, "Sure, but I want to tell you that without my help, even if you kill me, you can't leave the light and dark universe. Unless one day you can tear apart the cosmic surface of the light and dark universe like Qin Mutian." "Qin Mutian can tear apart the cosmic surface of the light and dark universe?" Ning Cheng asked in shock. He had guessed that Qin Mutian was strong, but to tear apart the cosmic surface, wasn't it a bit too powerful? Tamu spoke up, "I'm talking about the time when he left. I'm afraid that his current strength is not comparable to what it was in the past." Ning Cheng remained silent. If Qin Mutian was as powerful as Ta Mu said, then no one he had ever met was Qin Mutian's opponent, including Daoist Zixiao and Xing Shi. Where did he go after leaving the light and dark universe? Ning Qing asked after a long silence. Ta Mu looked up blankly. After a while, he didn't know if he should answer Ning Cheng's question or just mumble to himself. Even if I leave the sacred river, do you think I can escape from him? Ning Qing knew that he couldn't let Ta Mu hesitate. If Ta Mu hesitated, it might cause even more trouble for him. Dao friend Ta Mu, no matter if you leave the sacred domain river or not, one thing is certain. If you leave, you might still have a chance to live. If you stay here, you won't have any chance at all. Tai Mu said that without his help, he wouldn't be able to leave the light and dark cosmos even if he killed him. Sure enough, after listening to Ning Cheng's words, Ta Mu's spirit shook. Brother Ning, you are right. If I stay here, only death awaits me. However, if I leave, I would still have a chance of survival. That bastard Qin Mutian, I didn't expect you to come here. I also didn't expect you to have an offensive treasure refined by fusing the heaven-opening mother iron with the 5 elements divine water. Brother Ning, as long as you use your magical weapon to break the shackles on me, I can help you get out of this place. Ning Qing already knew that Ta Mu wanted to make this request. Therefore, he spoke up without hesitation. Naturally, I can help you get out of here. You can help me leave. Come with me. After Ta Mu finished speaking, his figure flashed and turned into a ripple before disappearing into the coral. Ning Qing stepped in without hesitation. After stepping into the coral, Ning Qing understood that this was a void array entrance. Sure enough, after he landed, he saw a completely different scene. He appeared at the entrance of a magnificent and luxurious hall. You live in a good place. Ning Qing looked at Ta Mu in front of him and spoke with a calm voice. Ta Mu sneered, after you come in, you will know that I live in a good place. Ning Qing stepped into the hall and felt a Dao charm binding aura. Ning Qing immediately understood Ta Mu's words. This place was like raising pigs in a pen, and one couldn't cultivate at all. Ta Mu's voice arrived. If I hadn't left behind a few tricks, condensed my own laws, and started refining the sacred domain river, I would have no choice but to wait for death in this hall. Ning Qing didn't speak. Anyone who was locked in this place, unable to cultivate, unable to leave, and had to count the years every day, would find it torturous. It was even more torturous than any torture. Since Ta Mu could condense his own laws and break free from the shackles of this hall, it showed that he was an amazing talent. Come with me. Ta Mu led Ning Qing through the magnificent hall and came to a staircase made entirely of water ripples. After walking along this staircase for a full hour, Ning Qing saw a ripple with a fish-like glow. Is this the sacred domain river in the heart of light and dark? Ning Qing asked. He could feel that this ripple with a fish-like glow was the sacred domain river behind the light and dark treasure tree after he stepped into the 3rd step of the heart of light and dark. Ta Mu nodded. It looks like you really went to the heart of light and dark. Yes, what you saw was indeed the same place as the ripple of the sacred domain river in the heart of light and dark. But if you had dared to enter from that place, these ripples would have torn you to pieces. Ning Qing didn't refute Ta Mu's words. Since Qin Mutian could tear the universe apart, he could indeed crush him. However, Qin Mutian wasn't here, and it wouldn't be easy for him to tear him to pieces with the means he had set up. It was fine as long as he knew what he was doing. Seeing that Ning Qing didn't speak, Ta Mu continued, Did you see the light and dark treasure tree? Qin Mutian deliberately left it there. Anyone who can see the light and dark treasure tree, or even sees it, is an outstanding person in the heart of light and dark. Such people's Tao laws are the most suitable to nourish the light and dark treasure tree. Ning Qing frowned. Isn't the light and dark treasure tree here for the light and dark universe? In Ning Cheng's view, the light and dark treasure tree was the symbol of the light and dark universe. The existence of the light and dark treasure tree would continuously purify the light and dark universe's heaven and earth laws. Ta Mu spoke up sarcastically, the light and dark universe belongs to Qin Mutian. How could he let those ants in the light and dark universe benefit? The light and dark universe doesn't have a reincarnation cycle. After anyone falls, their soul and the Tao laws scattered between heaven and earth would be absorbed by the light and dark treasure tree to strengthen it. Therefore, even if I don't devour the Tao laws of those fallen powerhouses in the sacred domain river, their Tao laws would still be absorbed by the light and dark treasure tree. Amazing. Ning Qing took in a deep breath. Sure enough, the stronger they were, the more ruthless they became. For the sake of the supreme Tao, all living beings were nothing but ants in their eyes. Tamu spoke up calmly, "What's so amazing about it? This ripple is suppressed by the light and dark treasure tree, and it has also merged with my spiritual soul. Anyone who wants to leave this place would turn into a part of the light and dark treasure tree's Tao laws. Moreover, every time someone gets swallowed by the light and dark treasure tree, my soul would become more integrated with the light and dark treasure tree. One day, will you become a part of the light and dark treasure tree?" Ning Qing asked. Tamu nodded, but his expression remained calm. "You're right. This part isn't the treasure tree's tree spirit, but a part of the treasure tree's Tao laws. Therefore, I can't let anyone leave the sacred domain river. But you're right. If I don't break the gray light shackling my spiritual soul, I wouldn't stand a chance. If I break it and leave this place, I would still have a chance to live." Ning Qing looked at Tamu and spoke with a cautious tone. "Tamu, if you believe me, wait for me here for a few days. After a few days, I might come down from the place where the light and dark treasure tree resides." "You want to snatch the light and dark treasure tree?" Tamu finally spoke up in surprise. Ning Qing spoke up with a decisive tone. "Yes, I want to snatch the light and dark treasure tree." Ning Qing didn't covet the light and dark treasure tree before. Firstly, he thought that the light and dark treasure tree belonged to the entire light and dark universe. Secondly, the light and dark treasure tree didn't have much use for him. He had just condensed his own world and knew how precious things like the light and dark treasure tree were. Now that he knew that the light and dark treasure tree not only couldn't bring any benefits to the light and dark universe, but also continuously absorbed the Tao laws of the light and dark universe, what reason did he have not to take away the light and dark treasure tree? Do you know how powerful Qin Mutian is? Even if Qin Mutian wasn't here, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to take away his light and dark treasure tree." Tamu stared at Ning Qing and spoke. Ning Qing showed a faint smile. "I know how powerful Qin Mutian is. That's why I want to take away the light and dark treasure tree." Ning Qing wasn't talking nonsense. Since Qin Mutian wasn't here, taking away the light and dark treasure tree was equivalent to cutting off one of Qin Mutian's arms. Even if he didn't take away the light and dark treasure tree, it wouldn't bring him any benefits. Instead, it would only make Qin Mutian stronger in the future. Maybe one day, he would have to face Qin Mutian. Seeing Tamu still in a daze, Ning Qing spoke up. "Tao friend Tamu, if I don't take away the light and dark treasure tree, then according to what you said, even if I helped you cut off the gray light, your aura would still remain under the light and dark treasure tree. Once Qin Mutian comes back, he might be able to grab you and bring you back to this place in the blink of an eye. Since you reminded me of this, aren't you afraid that I would suddenly go back on my words and refuse to send you away? Moreover, even if you took away the light and dark treasure tree, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to leave without leaving behind my aura." Tamu spoke with a desolate tone. Ning Qing spoke up calmly. "Tao friend Tamu, this is the second thing I wanted to discuss with you. I hope that when you leave, you can leave behind the sacred domain river. Just take away your grand Tao's Tao charm. Leave behind the sacred domain river." Tamu looked at Ning Qing in disbelief. He had refined the sacred domain river for countless years and finally reached this step. How could he leave it behind just like that? Ning Qing stared at Tamu and said, "Tao friend Tamu, there's a saying that you can't bear to part with something. If you give up the sacred domain river, then you might get more. At the very least, I can guarantee that Qin Mutian wouldn't be able to find you again." "That's impossible. As long as the sacred domain river still exists, Qin Mutian can find me." Tamu shook his head without hesitation. Ning Qing spoke up word by word. "You're right. Because after you leave behind the Sacred Domain River, the Sacred Domain River will no longer exist. Why? Do you want to take away the Sacred Domain River? Tamu stared at Ning Qing in doubt. Ning Qing spoke up proudly, I don't want to take away the Sacred Domain River. I want to evolve the 6 paths, turn the Sacred Domain River into the 6 paths of reincarnation, and turn it into the samsara realm of the heart of light and dark. Chapter 1439. Tamu stared at Ning Cheng for a long time before speaking up. Dao friend Ning, since you can condense your own laws to evolve a world, you can say that you already stand at the peak. I believe that one day, you will be able to do what you just said, turning the Saint Domain River into the 6 paths reincarnation. But now, do you know what the samsara realm is? Do you know how difficult it is to build the samsara realm? Ning Qing didn't speak. Instead, he raised his hand and brought out the first bridge of coping and the second bridge of looking home. The 2 bridges were taken out, and Taoist rhymes surged. The bridge of helplessness and the bridge of homesickness were far from the level of reincarnation, but the chilly wind and sea of blood had already told Tamu that this was where ghosts should go. Ning Qing also used these 2 bridges to tell Tamu that if he could condense the bridge of coping and the bridge of looking home, he could evolve the Tao of Samsara. Fellow Taoist Takumu, have you seen 7th bridge before? If you agree with me, I can build 7 bridges in the Sacred Domain River. I said I could create a reincarnation passage. If you still don't believe me, then we can go our separate ways after I take the light and darkness treasure tree. Whether you want to take away the Sacred Domain River or not, it has nothing to do with me. After Ning Qing finished speaking, he raised his hand and rolled up the Futility Bridge and Looking Home Bridge. Tamu looked at the place where Ning Qing had brought out the twin bridges in shock. Even if he didn't understand it, he knew that this was indeed a method to construct the samsara realm. For Ning Qing to use such a method, it showed that Ning Qing truly had the ability to construct the samsara realm. Ning Qing was not bragging. If he had not stepped into the 3rd step, then he would have just been bragging. Now, he had condensed his own laws and even developed his own world. Even though he had the 7 bridges divine power, he still lacked the 7th reincarnation bridge. In fact, this wasn't a problem for him. Previously, he didn't have a way. Now, he could use his own laws to condense the 7th bridge and deduce the 7th reincarnation bridge. There were 3 reasons why Ning Qing wanted to help the light and dark cosmos construct the reincarnation realm. First, he wanted to take away the light and dark treasure tree. This reincarnation realm would be equivalent to him helping the light and dark cosmos with something. Secondly, if he constructed the reincarnation realm in the light and dark cosmos, the light and dark cosmos would gradually lose its connection with Qin Mutian. Otherwise, the light and darkness universe would always be Qin Mutian's backyard. All the people in the light and dark cosmos were like animals that Qin Mutian reared. He could kill and refine them whenever he wanted. He still had a few friends in the yin-yang cosmos. Not to mention Nong Shirua and Tang Hua, even Wang, who had stayed behind, was on good terms with him. Thirdly, he wanted to make use of the light and darkness cosmos to construct the reincarnation realm and derive the 7th reincarnation bridge to perfect his 7 bridges divine power. Fellow Taoist Taku, although we don't bother with trifles when it comes to cultivation, we won't restrain ourselves for the great Tao. However, in the vast universe, there were still karmic connections. If fellow Taoist Tamu believes me, then let's work together to build the light and dark universe's reincarnation realm. He could also make himself feel at ease, and the Tao would be more spacious. If Tamu doesn't believe me, then pretend I didn't say anything. However, the light and dark treasure tree is mine. Ning Qing spoke another sentence. Regardless of whether Tamu agreed with his words or not, Ning Qing would not try to persuade him even half a word. As for how many deaths treading screen had caused in the light and dark universe, it had nothing to do with him. Tamu took a deep breath and said, Brother Ning, I believe you. If you can really take away the light and dark treasure tree, I will give up the Sacred Domain River and join forces with you to build the light and dark universe's reincarnation realm. Okay. In that case, fellow Taoist Tamu, please wait here for a moment. After Ningqing finished, he raised his hand and tore the void in front of him. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Tamu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw the place where Ningqing disappeared. He knew that Ningqing was strong, but this was just too strong. How could he tear apart the sacred domain river's boundary? The sacred domain river was the place where he refined it, which was equivalent to his boundary. How could Ningqing tear it apart so easily? No wonder he dared to come here and wasn't afraid of him making a move. If he really attacked Ningqing, Tamu's soul would have already perished. This person's future achievements would definitely not be any weaker than Qin Mutian's. Ningqing had already escaped to the light and dark heart. He wasn't as powerful as Tamu said. When he first entered the sacred domain river, he really couldn't tear apart the sacred domain river's boundary. Later, after he absorbed Tamu's Dao Charm River and followed Tamu into the main hall, he saw the rippling surface of the universe. At that time, Ningqing could already tear apart Tamu's imperfect domain. Every battle between the light and darkness heavens would last for several years. In the end, they would fight until the sky turned dark and countless powerhouses fell. Only then would they have to stop fighting. But this time, the battle had just started, and it hadn't even fully formed when Ningqing interrupted it. In the light heavens, Ningqing didn't just do this. Not only did Ningqing raise Holy Lord Zhu Jin's cave mansion, but he also took away the five-colored star splitter bow. If this had happened in the past, the Holy Lord would have already roared thunderously. Not only did the Holy Lord not say anything, but even the 10 Dao Lords didn't mention a word about Ningqing. As for the Yu clan, after Ningqing killed Yushi, they started to withdraw from the light sacred domain. The light heavens remained calm, but more and more people went to the heart of light and darkness. There was a rumor in the light heavens that the reason why Ningqing became so powerful in such a short time was because he had gone to the heart of light and darkness. Some people even saw Ningqing's flying weapon to the heart of light and darkness. Whether it was because of this rumor or not, the number of people in the heart of light and darkness was indeed several times more than before. At the same time, Ningqing's strength was also many times stronger than before. Others would need several months to cross the road, but he could cross it in just one step. No matter how many people there were in the periphery of the heart of light and darkness, it would be difficult to find Ningqing's traces. The heart of light and darkness looked no different from before. After Ningqing came to the heart of light and darkness, he didn't stop at all and directly stepped into the depths of the heart of light and darkness. As he expected, he didn't see Yuan Mao. Ningqing wasn't worried that Yuan Mao would take away the light and darkness treasure tree. With Yuan Mao's strength, it might not be enough to take away the light and darkness treasure tree. As soon as he entered the heart of light and darkness, there was a chaotic aura of laws everywhere. However, the protective Dao rune laws around Ningqing had already condensed by himself. The violent Dao runes of the heart of light and darkness couldn't devour the Dao runes around Ningqing at all. Ningqing had been here once, so he knew that the heart of light and darkness would only appear when he evolved a world. Ningqing raised his hand and waved out new Dao rune laws to simulate the evolution of a world. For Ningqing, who had already stepped into the third step, condensing laws to evolve a world was a trivial matter. Sure enough, when the laws began to condense and evolve, a rainbow rose. Behind the rainbow was a giant tree surrounded by black and white Dao runes. This time, Ningqing could clearly see that it was the light and darkness treasure tree. The rainbow that appeared before the light and darkness treasure tree was just a cover. What really existed was a powerful defensive restriction. Ningqing didn't hesitate at all. He took a step forward and shot the creation divine spear at the rainbow. Boom! The creation divine spear slammed into the array foundation of the rainbow. With just one strike, a crack appeared on the rainbow. A Dao rune aura that could melt everything between heaven and earth swept over. Ningqing didn't wait for this aura to lock onto him. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the crack. Even when Qin Mutian arranged the rainbow restriction, he didn't expect that someone could tear apart the rainbow restriction with a single strike. To shatter the rainbow restriction with a single strike, in addition to having a peerless cultivation in the array Dao, one also needed a peerless weapon. Even so, as long as one couldn't shatter the rainbow restriction with a single strike, the light and darkness treasure tree wouldn't wait for a second attack and would automatically hide. Ning Cheng's creation divine spear was refined from the heaven-opening Iron Mother and the 5 elements spirit water. Coupled with Ning Cheng's understanding of the array Dao and his own strength, it only took a single strike to blast apart the rainbow. Sensing the law of light and darkness aura, Ning Cheng confirmed that it was indeed the light and darkness treasure tree. Without hesitation, he grabbed a handful of array flags and threw them out. The array flags that Ning Cheng threw out turned into nothingness in the shortest time possible. At the same time, the sacred domain river under the light and darkness treasure tree suddenly rippled, bringing with it light and darkness laws that wrapped around Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng's entire body froze. He couldn't even throw out the next handful of array flags. Seeing that the light and darkness treasure tree was about to disappear under the endless law of light and darkness, Ning Cheng's Dao rune surged and broke free from the shackles. He couldn't let the light and darkness treasure tree disappear. Once the light and darkness treasure tree disappeared, the power of the attack would increase by several times. Since the light and darkness treasure tree was here, the first attack would have to take into account the light and darkness treasure tree. At the same time, Ta Mu, who was at the bottom of the sacred domain river, shook, and the Dao rune aura crazily poured into the rippling water surface on the surface of the universe. If he hadn't made the deal with Ning Cheng, Ta Mu would have mobilized the Dao rune laws of the entire sacred domain river to help him kill Ning Cheng. But at this time, Ta Mu frantically controlled his Dao rune aura and even threw out array flags to prevent himself from merging into the rippling water surface on the surface of the universe. Even if he couldn't help Ning Cheng, he absolutely couldn't help Qin Mutian. Boom! The law-breaking finger slammed into the light and darkness law aura. The light and darkness law paused for a moment, and the light and darkness treasure tree's disappearance also slowed down. Ning Cheng knew that Ta Mu must have helped him. Otherwise, the Dao rune aura on the rippling water surface wouldn't have abruptly stopped. But now wasn't the time to thank Ta Mu. The Dao rune laws in Ning Cheng's domain burst like water from a broken dam and turned into Dao law aura one after another. When these Dao laws collided with the light and darkness law, Ning Cheng once again shot out with his spear. Traceless collapse. This was a spirit technique condensed from his own laws, traceless collapse. The almost substantial light and darkness law tore apart, and the traceless collapse formed layers of dislocation space. These dislocation spaces swept away the torn light and darkness law aura. Ning Cheng knew that the time had come. He once again grabbed a handful of array flags and threw them out. The hidden light and darkness treasure tree suddenly paused, and the laws around Ning Cheng condensed. Dao runes roared, and a powerful force trembled within the laws. Then, the array formation swept away the light and darkness treasure tree and brought it into Ning Cheng's domain at the fastest speed.